world needs your creativity and your commitment in order to solve the climate crisis.
Congratulations to the finalists of the Global Cooling Prize.
Congratulations to the winning finalists of the Global Cooling Prize. We are honored to be working with you. On behalf of the World Economic Forum, I would like to really congratulate the finalists to the Global Cooling Prize. If you can fix cooling with less use of energy, more sustainable, you really contributed to the future of our planet. And we just have one planet. We don't have a planet B.
Congratulations to the finalists of the Global Cooling Prize.
On behalf of Sustainable Energy for All, I would like to congratulate the finalists of the Global Cooling Prize.
I'd like to congratulate the finalists of the Cooling Prize. Thank you for joining us to provide cooling for all without warming the world.
I'd like to congratulate the Global Cooling Prize winners for their achievements and their innovations. Their work and effort will have an immense impact.
On behalf of Terry, I would like to congratulate all the finalists of the Global Cooling Prize.
Congratulations to you all, and all, so you all a big hug from WWF International, the Climate and Energy Practice, and myself.
I'd like to congratulate the finalists of the Global Cooling Prize. You make us proud.
And I look forward to following all of you on your journey to winning the prize and scaling your solution globally. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us
to provide cooling for all without warming the planet.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Global Cooling Prize Finalist Awards Ceremony. We're very, very excited about the second half of the day, where our finalist teams will share insights on their breakthrough technologies, and we will also have the opportunity to hear from global leaders in the space of sustainable cooling. To start this session, we have with us today to share insights on cooling as a social imperative, Mr. Glenn Pierce-Oroz, Director of Policy and Programs, Sustainable Energy for All. Glenn works as Director of Policy and Programs for SE for All in the Vienna office. His role focuses on leading the global policy engagement and programmatic strategy for SE for All, which include efforts on access to energy and energy efficiency first. Glenn has also worked for the World Bank in urban development, water, and sanitation sectors. Over the past 18 years, he has been working from country offices in Latin America, South Asia, and Africa. It is our pleasure to welcome him today. Glenn, please come.
Thank you very much, Radhika, and that was, I think, a wonderful way to start the second half of this day with so many messages from so many partners and people in leadership who are really giving you the chance to get some insight into what needs to be done from a global strategic perspective. And as exciting as the announcement this morning before lunch is, I think the real excitement is yet to come this afternoon. I was pleased to be able to see a small preview of what some of these finalists have to share. And this is what technological disruption looks like. We are literally on the edge of our seats. We were approximating a cutting edge. And I can see many different pieces out here that will come together. It should be very inspiring for all of us in this room to see how this can eventually really change the way we think of cooling. I would like to recognize on behalf of SE for All, certainly the great partnership with Rocky Mountain Institute, all the partners which have made this possible up until today. and in particular the leadership of the government of India for prioritizing this challenge and prioritizing the concerns around cooling for all. It should not come as any surprise. We have had 5 of the hottest years on record between 2014 and 2018. Cooling no longer is a luxury, and this is one of the key messages that through our Chilling Prospects report, Sustainable Energy for All has been adamant in being able to put on the table for our consideration. We need cooling to keep our children healthy. We need cooling to keep vaccines stable, to keep food nutritious and our economies productive. Access to cooling, in general terms, is both about space cooling as well as refrigeration. And so we need to also look at the potential of the technologies that are being developed here by those of you in this room for cold chain refrigeration. This is extremely important, as was reflected this morning in some of the comments. Chilling Prospects, when it was released last year in 2018, was the first ever attempt to quantify who is at risk and where they are found. Through this effort, we were able to identify 52 countries where these populations that are most at risk are found, with 9 critical countries, which include Brazil, Nigeria, Sudan, Mozambique, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and China. This year, we released an updated version of Chilling Prospects 2019 just last week. I know some of you in this room were actually at that launch. And we have been able to find that there are still slightly more than 1 billion people that are at risk for not having access to, at high risk for not having access to cooling. And these are both urban poor and rural poor. But equally as important, there are 2.2 billion people in lower middle income brackets of our populations who face a medium risk from lack of access to cooling. In addition, 12 countries have more than 60% of their populations that are at risk from lack of access to cooling. And one country, Mozambique, which has an astounding 85% of its country's population that is at risk for not having access to cooling. Chilling Prospects identifies national cooling plans, and here we look to the leadership of countries like India, who have already begun their cooling plans, needs assessments, which will help governments identify who and where, as well as minimum energy performance standards that need to be looked at and improved upon to help us and to help guide what options will be acceptable in the marketplace. So where do our two paths converge? We need them to converge as quickly as possible, both from the technology side as well as from the policy side. We need the Global Cooling Prize to generate as many viable options out there. And I may get in trouble with our hosts, but it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different technologies that eventually see the light of day. We need government policymakers, certainly, to urgently put some new pieces of policy, strategy, national cooling plans, MEPs into place. Donors, development practitioners, financiers have a role to play, as do city and local authorities. One group that we have not mentioned, I think, enough today is the consumers. How do we reach the consumers? How do we reach that behavior shift that's needed? Give consumers the type of information they need to make the purchases that will also hopefully be more beneficial for the environment. So let's look forward, and I will end with these 2 or 3 thoughts. The future is not predetermined. It takes ambition. We have ambition here. It takes hard work. We have the results of a lot of your hard work here. We know the importance that cooling has for the Paris Agreement, and I'd like to put a marker down. In 2023, there will be a global stock-taking of what the collective progress has been to achieve Paris Agreement goals. In this room, we should start thinking about what can we do by 2023, if not well before 2023, to get some of these approaches, technologies into the marketplace and scaled up as much as possible. And why not see what other derivative approaches for refrigeration can be gleaned from the exciting options that you're generating now. I look forward to the series of presentations that we'll have from the finalists. This has been an absolutely wonderful way to hit this milestone. Congratulations to the finalists, and I hope that we have certainly a really good reflection of what can happen in the future and what we need to take place before 2023. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Pierre-Soros, and sharing insights on the importance of cooling on the livelihoods of people around the world and why finding a sustainable solution as soon as possible is so critical. We will now move on to a very exciting part of the award show, where we finally get to hear from the finalists themselves. To begin with, I would like to invite Team Daikin Air Conditioning India Private Limited, Daikin Industries Limited, and Nikon Seiki Limited from Japan and India. Presenting on behalf of the team is Mr. Kanwaljit Jawa, Managing Director and CEO, Daikin Air Conditioning India Private Limited, and member of the board, Daikin Industries Limited, Japan. Welcome, sir. The stage is yours.
Good afternoon. Namaste, konnichiwa. My name is Kanwaljit Jawa and I represent Daikin Air Conditioning India. Daikin Air Conditioning India is a part of Daikin Japan. It's a 100% subsidiary. We also launched the world's first residential use air conditioner using R32 green refrigerant. And our partners in this cause is Nikon Seiki. They are the topmost design, architecture, and engineering company based out of Tokyo, Japan. Nikon Seiki has completed more than 25,000 projects in 250 cities across 50 countries. About our technology, firstly, we will adopt multi-split method to connect 3 indoor units with 1 outdoor unit. This method optimizes refrigerant flow for each of the 3 units depending on ever-changing cooling load and using refrigerant control technology to closely modulate the latent heat and sensible heat capacity. Secondly, we will adopt evaporator cooling. This method can improve the system efficiency by using the heat of vaporization to lower the temperature of the air that outdoor unit takes in. We will develop the mechanism through which we measure the outdoor temperature, basis which water can be sprinkled under the high ambient conditions and where cooling load is particularly on the high side. In order to reduce the annual power consumption, we first selected efficient components, and for each item we optimized the design of the machine to improve the airflow performance. In response to cost requirement, we shall optimize the cost of the components in terms of efficiency and other related parts. While improving the efficiency of the cooling solution, the controls to manage the power consumptions was installed so that the maximum power consumption does not exceed 700 watts. Except for the 3 units, it is the same system as the existing mini-split AC, and the same can be easily installed with the same constructions for power supply and refrigerant piping as it is done with the existing high-wall units. Also, the spray vaporization requires water to be supplied from a faucet having a normal water pressure which will be installed on the wall of the building near the rear side of the outdoor units. Well, as regards to my team introduction, the team is perfect example of collaborative efforts from Japanese brain and Indian brain. Our unique team consists of various members from the cross-functional fields, including the product management, research and development, technical engineering, architectural design, urban design planning, and consulting. In this notable cause of reducing global warming, we feel PRIZE is a great initiative to bring all the stakeholders together under the public-private partnership umbrella. Daikin has always challenged itself to bring a balance between environment-friendly and efficient products. As the only company in the world that manufactures air conditioners, compressors, and refrigerants, we take this as a challenge, and more importantly, it is our responsibility to address the concern related to the environment. Earlier this year, Daikin has granted free access to 176 pledged patents in relation to HVAC equipment. With this, we want to thank the organizers for Global Cooling Prize team for giving us the opportunity to be selected as one of the finalists. Aiming towards carbon neutrality by 2050, Daikin announced its Environment Vision 2050. We are working to reduce energy consumption and refrigerant impact. The proposal forms a part of our ceaseless research efforts towards Vision 2050. Daikin will put its best foot forward to develop working prototypes in the next phase of GCP. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Java. Let's have a huge applause for Team Daikin. I would now like to invite on stage a man who is very familiar with global prizes. May I have on stage Dr. Paul Bungie, co-founder, Conservation X Labs. Paul was formerly the chief scientist at X Prize and the executive director of UCLA Center for Climate Change Solutions. May I also request Professor Sukumar Devota to please join us on stage. Professor Devota was one of the jury members as part of the technical review committee of the Global Cooling Prize. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Radhika. And Kanwal, Team Daikin, Nikan Sike, congratulations. This is a huge accomplishment. How does it feel? Hey, let's grab a mic.
These are, needless to say, the very exciting time. Since morning, the room is full of energy. You have people from the ministry, you have people from various agencies like BE, AE. I could see many friends, some consultants, colleagues from the industry. So it's an exciting time.
It's nice to have friends here to congratulate you.
Thank you.
I think we're all very impressed with the team and the diversity you described. Tell us how it is that this Japanese brains and Indian brawn, as you put it, although I know there are brains and brawn on both sides. How did you come together?
I'll tell you that, I am associated with this industry for almost the last 4 decades. I think most of the people will know me. I can see all over the audience, my friends. I've spent almost 4 decades in this line in air conditioning. And Daikin for the last 95 years. And this, I think, excites me the most, the energy efficiency and also the environmental concern. So having been part of this exciting journey, I think this is what is the inspiration. Inspiration for us is energy efficiency. Inspiration for us is environment. And I've been thinking right from my childhood that, how can I provide an air conditioner to a common man? And because of the energy efficiency, probably I could not provide. So I think this is a dream coming true in that direction, if you ask me.
Can you speak more about this impact? Obviously, the Global Cooling Prize is critical for helping us address climate change and the causes therein, but also for providing comfort cooling to billions of people around the world that need it. And I know this is important to Daikin.
See, Daikin is a global air conditioning expert. They are the global air expert. In fact, our policy is to provide good air and good environment. And in that policy guidelines, I think if you look at, even last year we were recognized by the power minister here for producing the highest energy efficiency award. So when we heard about this award, we thought that this is in line with our global policy, and we immediately jumped into it.
Can you speak a little bit, just as an example, you were telling me yesterday about the work that you've done with you're using a new refrigerant, not R32, but you are also a leader in R32, which you have done some amazing work with to help support the development of many countries. Can you talk a little bit?
We are, as of now, if you look at R32 is the most balanced refrigerant, not only technically but also commercially, and that has been copied. I mean, we were the first one to launch in India in 2012, and today 11 more competitors are actually using that. So we really showed the world what R32 advantages were. They had a low global warming potential. It also had the commercially viability, and the size of the air conditioners became smaller. The GWE was lower, and everybody today has copied almost that R32 refrigerant. We are very proud of that, and we have released 176 patents to it. So as of now, we feel that is probably the best refrigerant available.
Which, in opening that up and that intellectual property to many countries around the world is a demonstration of your interest in seeing that adopted and providing these technologies. But on this prize, as you just described, you've got a new approach, a new technology.
See, as an industry leader, and as you have seen our team comprises of the engineers from TIC. Now, TIC has 800 engineers sitting 24 hours, 365 days, doing something or the other, and you need to be always one step ahead of competition. And in line of that, I mean, there are many research which are going on. Everything we cannot disclose to you from a technology perspective, but surely and certainly Daikin would like to stay a step ahead of the competition.
Well,
and we are working on various other alternatives.
Which is impressive. Although, as a leader in this space, are you at all worried that you'll be able to outcompete some of these other amazing teams, or are you excited to push yourselves further with new technology?
Yeah, we always see opportunity in any adversity, and we convert adversity into advantages. So when you see the challenge, which is a global challenge today, I think this is an opportunity for Daikin.
And I know the technical review community was impressed with the approach, and certainly the team. But there's also some challenges to overcome. And I know, Sukumar, you've been thinking about.
Well, like I said, the challenges are opportunity, and you have to. I'm sure that there are challenges, and I think we have colleagues. Many of them you would have seen here. They will take that challenge and convert that into an opportunity. You don't have, simple life. I mean, I say. The Daikin, last 10 years, if you see, 2010 we had tsunami, 2011 we had probably flood in Thailand, 2012 something else came. So, these are life is part of challenges, and you keep converting challenges into opportunities, and that is how we have grown over 10 times in last 10 years in India, right here. So I think we are pretty confident that we'll be able to handle the challenges what we talked about yesterday, be it water or be it the size or be it the cost. I think the team, when you have a collaborative effort, and this is what I say, that Japanese have a lot of resilience. They have probably seen many tsunamis and many floods, and therefore I think when I say Indian bronze, Indians are also have seen a lot of complexities many times. So they execute well, and I think Japanese think well. So I think it's a deadly combination between the two.
Mr. Java?
Yeah.
One of the challenges for you from Global Cooling Prize point of view is keep the size and installation part of it as simple as possible, because having a 3-split indoor unit is going to pose a challenge for installation, and the cost. So one of the comments we made or suggestions we made, whether you could reduce the number so that the installation doesn't become a cumbersome process. And this is one of the concerns TRC had.
No, Dr. Sukumar, it's like this. We also see that, as a challenge. We also see that as a challenge. I think And we are working to overcome on that challenge. And over a period of time, you talked to me yesterday even about water also.
Yes.
You see, we operate in 150 countries, and we have handled this water issue in Dubai. We have handled the water issues even in Delhi, Mumbai also. We are
Indeed.
also magnetic chillers. We are also making other products. So I think these challenges are on the radar, and people are competent enough to. I have a lot of confidence on the people.
Yeah, I understand. As long as you recognize the problem and you're able to resolve it, it's good.
Yeah.
But these are the concerns of the technical review committee. One is the multiple indoor unit IDU. The second is water quality, and third is air quality, because you still have direct evaporative cooling on. So there can be an issue with the air quality. So these are the three concerns we had. So if you can address that, it will be good for you in terms of the meeting the challenge.
Thank you very much for your inputs, and I think we will take that into our meeting room and
sure.
resolve it.
All the best.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And of course, as you said, you have long expertise, many decades in creating real products that serve real people's needs. And it sounds like you feel like this team is up to the challenge, yeah?
Yeah. And I think I will again sum it up with that only, that, these are the challenges on board, which
just
we will take it head on, and we will try to resolve
just
it.
one final comment. I really pulled a rabbit out of hat by choosing R1234 ZE, because it's not something which is commonly used in small appliances.
You see, we have already declared 2050 environment policy. And in that environment policy, it is very clear that we have to reduce the carbon contents, and we are working in that direction.
Really good, really good.
And as of now, whatever challenges are there, that we will come back when we come with the prototype to you.
Sure.
Okay.
We look forward to that.
This is
Thank you.
yet another example of your team disrupting yourselves and asking what you can do even more. You have a low global warming potential refrigerant already on the market, and you decided to go even lower. Is that right?
Still lower. Yeah, that's what.
So that's what we believe. Eruption, disruption, and then explosion.
They're used to A2L, the flammable refrigerant, so that's not a challenge for them.
This is
when we
can't wait to
launched that, I think that was a big challenge, because the entire, many of my industry friends are here, from Rama, from METI, from Gree GFT, and this was a challenge. A lot of people were skeptical whether R32 will be a good refrigerant or no. But we converted that, and we proved it to the world that that was the best. Yeah.
I love the attitude. I can't wait to see what you all do. Congratulations again for making it this far, and keep innovating. Thank you very much. Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you so much for that. That was really a very wonderful conversation, and we did learn a lot about what Daikin is planning to do with their technology in the upcoming future. We now would like to welcome to deliver their presentation on their winning technology from India, Team Godrej, Boyce Manufacturing Co. Limited, and ATE Enterprises Private Limited. Presenting on behalf of the team is Mr. Suhas Kulkarni, VP of Research and Development, Godrej. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. That is for slide, please. I can just use this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me first thank and congratulate organizers of this Global Cooling Prize, in particular DST, Department of Science and Technology, and also Rocky Mountain University Institute, for putting forth such a challenging assignment in front of the global community to draw their attention to the serious challenge this planet is facing. If you don't realize this, the whole world could be like a boiling frog syndrome, will perish without really understanding what is happening. So great job. Really, thank you very much for that challenge. I'm Suhas Kulkarni. I'm representing Godrej Appliances. Godrej Appliance is the first company in India to manufacture refrigerators way back in 1958. and setting up a foundation for appliance industry in India. We are a part of Godrej and Boyce, which is an engineering company, diversified engineering company, established way back in 1897. And Godrej and Boyce is the first company of Godrej Group, which is a highly diversified conglomerate operating in India. If you really see, environment is one of our core value, and that's what our founders have set it for, and therefore we have always been focusing on green and energy efficient appliances when it comes to appliances in India. And therefore we took lots of pioneering initiatives in this space, and the important one I would like to share with you is working with Ministry of Environment and Forest and also GTZ. We worked very closely to really take a one-step changeover of refrigerants, and we did not just eliminate CFC, HCFC, but HFC also, and we are the first company in India to offer these products to the market. Our products and manufacturing facilities have got some recognition, therefore, from the community in terms of its energy award for products, green awards for our factories and buildings, and also design excellence awards from India Design Council, and a good design award from Japan Institute of Design Promotion for our air conditioners. With this background, I think it was but natural for us to really get into action when this cooling challenge was put forward to the community. So what was our approach to deal with this challenge? We thought that we have good understanding about air conditioner, particularly domestic air conditioners. That is our focus. We had a clear concept as to which are the items and the components, basically nuts and bolts, software, hardware, what we can really attack to improve efficiencies further. We also knew that we can really leverage evaporative cooling, and more importantly, since this is a prize and having certain deadlines, we decided to focus only on a proven technologies so we can come out with a robust solution and de-risk our whole approach. We finalized our concept accordingly, and then we decided to work with the chosen partners to take this whole concept forward into the prototype. So what is our concept? Concept is an innovative cooling system which leverages natural refrigerant, zero ODP, and very low global warming potential to minimize climatic impact. We would be highly optimizing our vapor compression cycle, and will integrate it with advanced evaporative cooling cycle. We'll also leverage small PV solar, and to manage the marriage of all these things, we'll have very smart electronic controls which will really extract best efficiency of this whole system. Who is our partner? Our partner is ATE Enterprises Limited. Prasanna is sitting here on behalf of ATE. They are operating in B2B space. It's very interesting. We decided to collaborate with somebody who is not into B2C but B2B, and they're working on their social goals and trying to solve them through businesses they operate. And therefore, if you really see, their focus is in effluent treatments and energy saving, energy efficient comfort conditioning. That's what brings them as our partner. Moving forward, of course, what we would now like to do is we would like to validate our prototypes, and on the way to go to the market, we would take all the steps in terms of market acceptability, etc., with a clear intent to take super efficient cooling from class to mass. And I think that is what the global challenge is all about: make affordable cooling available to the mass. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Can you take a seat here, actually? Yes, for you. Thank you for sharing ideas and insights in your technology and your plan for the GCP. Now may I welcome back to stage Mr. Banji and Professor Devota, as well as Mr. Prasanna, Chief Technical Officer of ATE. Over to you, gentlemen.
You have your microphones, and Suhas Prasanna, congratulations to you as well. This is quite an accomplishment. You're both smiling widely. I love that.
Yeah, I think it is indeed a matter of pride for this team. But while we celebrate, I think it is very clear that this is a work maybe not even half done. There's a long distance to go ahead, and I think that will be our focus. We are determined to take it forward.
Today is a bit of a starting gun in this race,
Yes,
as it were.
yes.
But you two have brought together the expertise of a couple of different firms. How did that come about? How did this partnership develop?
Yeah, I think it's clear that whatever challenge has been put forward to us, or rather global community, is essentially develop some solution for B2C, because it's after all it's going to the end consumer, and we know the tricks of this trade as far as this part is concerned. What we thought, it will be a good idea to work with a partner who knows great details about evaporative cooling, and who are working in a very different space, so that they understand how to deal with B2B. And if we come together and if we leverage our expertise, it will be a very interesting combination. And that's how we chose to work with ATE. Maybe Prasanna can add if you might like to.
To echo what Suhas has said, it was a chance to take a big leap. And we do understand evaporative cooling to some extent. Godrej had tremendous experience with our 290 already in the market. And it works out quite well. It's a challenge for both companies. We come from different perspectives. And that is one of the things we'll have to go along, and tackle head on, not just 1 year, but further.
As we heard, a challenge like that can be a strength as well, yes?
Absolutely. I look at it as a great strength and opportunity rather than challenge. I think the bigger challenge is GCP.
Yes.
Okay. All other challenges, we have to deal with it as we go along.
Very well said.
How is it then that the Global Cooling Prize inspired your efforts? How has it affected your work?
Yeah, I think if you see the basic core value which I refer to is environment, and it's a known fact, at least in this part of the world, the seriousness of Godrej as a responsible corporate citizen, and that's the reason. In fact, Godrej was the only company operating in this competitive market which really took a very, very calculated step to go from CFCs directly to hydrocarbon and natural refrigerant. Not many people were willing to take that step, but we were very clear what is best for environment, what we can manage for the end consumer. We had a faith in our ability. We had faith in our network that yes, we can deal with these technologies, and that's what we did. Of course, it really helped us to work on an environmental issue. It gave us some competitive edge in the market in terms of energy efficiency of this technology. But as I said, that was not enough, because the kind of order of a magnitude of a challenge which was put forward by the technical committee, thanks to Dr. Devota, I think we needed a very, very different approach. The incremental approach would have been just grossly inadequate, and therefore we had to take some radical approach in terms of the way we think. And that's where this, the deploying hybrid technology came in. That's why we came out with a concept and then, involved and invited a partner to take this concept forward. So that is what really excited us.
And I think, as you mentioned, the technical review committee was impressed with this innovative approach and as you say, trying to leapfrog or trying to do something more than incremental work, which is quite impressive.
I think what you have done is a combination of three, traditional 290 expertise of Godrej and evaporative cooling, and then you also pulled in solar PV. So this puts a challenge on the size. In global GCP, there is a limit on size. So I wonder whether you have thought of that.
Yeah, we have taken cognizance of that, and right now we are still well within the limit. I will not get into details of it. It's there as a part of our technical application, but we are quite mindful about it, and we thought that especially for a country like India, where we have hot summers, it also provides, like we are saying, warming is a challenge, but actually in our approach we thought warming, how can we really turn it around as an opportunity, and that is where we thought, why not leverage solar when the load is maximum on a grid. If I can harness some solar, it really helps to reduce load on the grid, and of course it helps consumer in terms of his electricity bill. So there are challenges. I think we'll have to see how to convert it into opportunity. That was our thought.
Well, you are both building on many years of expertise in industrializing and commercializing products of these sorts. How is it that you then can improve beyond what you've already done to accomplish the very bold goals that not only GCP is, but clearly in your values are to deliver comfort cooling for
I think,
not just class but mass?
Yeah, I think you said it. I think put together, if you see Godrej and Boyce and AT, as an organization, just two of us have combined experience of 200 years. I think it's not something which many people can really have it, but I think we are fortunate enough that we could come together and really take it forward. If Prasanna, you want to add something, please.
It is a relatively small company compared to Godrej, but again, the core values reflect care. But another core value has been innovation. So we are grounded in technology. Technology is our strength. So this has been continuous in our path, and it has been a great opportunity for us to come and work together. So I think we should thank GCP to set the bar so high so that it enabled us to work together.
What is it for both ATE and Godrej about cooling that satisfies these two core values of innovation and the environment?
For if I may go, elaborating on care, which is our core value, it is directly related to health, and then given health, the rest can be achieved. And AT has been committed in trying to achieve its social objectives through its business. So we think that we could contribute in a small way in this, and it gives us enormous pleasure because we embarked on this concept of comfort cooling over 20 years ago, and AT got into it about 12 years ago. And it's nice in a way to see we get a chance to expand its footprint. It's not the right reason that we're here, but we got a chance to work on it with the global community.
And to be pushed even further.
One of the challenges when you integrate evaporative cooling is the water quality. I hope that you have thought of the issues related to water quality and maintenance. So please.
It is an important criteria, and we will leverage the experience of commercial products, because industrial products come with maintenance staff and other things, which commercial products are well designed in that way. So this point is well taken, and it gives an opportunity to take evaporative cooling also to the next step.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I am beyond impressed by the core values of care for people, care for the environment, and innovation. Where do you see those values taking you, not only in this prize, but afterwards in delivering these types of services to people? I love the line that you want to take cooling from class to mass. How do we grow in 5 years?
Yeah, I think care, environment, or integrity, or a trust, I think these are really fundamental values which our founders have really given us. If you really follow these values in true spirit, it is always going to help you to manage your business in a sustainable way. And I think if you really stick to these values, I don't see any issues. And these values will really push you, in the direction to really apply yourself, stretch yourself, and take challenges which are really global challenges, solve them. And I think if you solve the challenges what a community or a society is facing, of course there will be a market. Market will come. I don't think we should really worry about the market. It's important that we stick to our core values. We really innovate on those direction. I'm sure results will follow.
I mean, if I may just add for 30 seconds here, most of us around the table, around this room, came with masks today. So the right to fresh air is an inalienable right. Once that is appreciated, then, I can see potential there. We can all see potential there. There are enough products there, but there's more that can be done.
Good. Well, with the expertise you bring and even more the values, we are so proud to have you as finalists in the Global Cooling Prize. Congratulations again.
Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much. And from my side, best of luck to all the teams. May everybody win, because that's what we heard some of the dignitaries in the first session, that we would like to have 8 or 10 different problems to solve different solutions for the global community. So I don't think we are really looking at it just as a competition. I think we are looking at it as a noble contribution to the global challenges. Thank you very much.
Very well said. Thank you,
Very well
Pras.
said.
Thank you, Pras.
Indeed. Thank you, Team Godrej.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dr. Devota. Thank you, Team Godrej and ATE. We now have a very special session lined up. I'm very fortunate to introduce one of India's most respected policy makers who's working on energy transition. Please help me in welcoming the Additional Secretary of Niti Aayog, Shri R.P. Gupta. Sir, we're very grateful to have you with us today.
I must begin by thanking the organizers, Department of Science and Technology, Rocky Mountain Institute, for organizing this very important competition. Ladies and gentlemen, we are one of the fastest growing economy, and notwithstanding the current slowdown, we are going to remain the fastest and probably hoping to achieve a sustained growth of about 7.5 to 8% in the next decade. Given our standard of living and the aspirations which this country has, the growth is going to put the maximum pressure on energy. With the increasing standard of living, global warming, and the cooling which itself puts the space cooling, confined space cooling, that puts pressure on the ambient air, and the temperature normally rises more than what it would have otherwise risen. The requirement for cooling and more households joining it and needing it. Cooling not remaining a luxury which was thought about 10 years back, becoming a requirement. As TVs and refrigerators earlier used to be a luxury and for people with families of status, they have now become almost a common use facilities. The same thing is going to happen with with the cooling requirement. Cooling is also necessary not only for health purposes, but also it enhances the productivity, which if we have to withstand the competition in the world, our economy will have to cater to that. Health, of course, is well known necessity for the cooling. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next decade up to 2030, our energy requirement from the current levels is likely to go up by 2.5 times from what is it today. And if we keep our policy ecosystem and innovation ecosystem, if we can get that right, the demand for energy can be reduced by about 25%. That's a huge difference, which simply by putting the efficiency into the demand systems, we can reduce that requirement. Cooling, which accounts for roughly about 4.5% of our total energy demand. This will be will increase its share in the overall energy demand and is likely to go by 3 times. That is, our total demand goes up by 2 times or 2.5 times. The cooling energy requirement or cooling demand is likely to go up by 3 times. We all know that efficiency in any of the system is one of the prime requirement, and it decreases the requirement of the inputs. But how do we achieve it? In a price sensitive market like India, where those new entrants who will be requiring cooling, they are going to be at the lower end of the income spectrum, for whom what matters is the initial cost. They do not care much about the overall life cycle cost. What is most important for them is the initial cost. And we all know, when we try to increase the efficiency of any system, the first thing which we require is the capital cost or the initial cost, which goes up. The challenge here would be, how do we keep this initial cost down? Of course, so we will have to find the solutions to it. Either the initial cost can be reduced, for which this whole program is about, or we have to find the innovative ways to reduce the initial cost for him, where the financial model difference, financial innovations, they play a role in it. So innovations are basically the key. It is not only in the space of cooling, but in all aspects of energy, whether it is energy generation, whether it is energy transmission, it is distribution, or it is energy consumption, or at the demand level, right at the end of the consumer level. The innovations in different kinds, they will be technical, these are going to be financial, they are going to be service models, which we will have to all think of, and all these can be market based. Technical, of course, will require some sort of support from the government, but the financial models, as well as the service models, what we need to provide to them is the proper regulatory system. And that is where the policy level interventions plays its role. So innovations are going to be the key, and the key is going to be how do we design our policies and regulatory system which promotes the innovations in all aspects of energy from generation right up to the consumption. As far as the cooling systems are concerned, there are some important aspects and different organizations which are going to play a role in it. The most important role for promoting the efficient cooling is that of the energy efficiency, that is Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and their standard and labeling program will have to extend and strengthen so that the efficiency becomes one of the basic requirements, and their policies, the standard labeling policies and regulations which they put in, they will have to promote the efficiency, notwithstanding the fact that sometimes the initial cost of the efficient appliances, they are going to cost more. Depending on the standard of living and the per capita income which is going to be there, these standard of efficiency will have to go up from time to time. This program, standard and labeling program, must also provide for proper opportunities for the startups to showcase their innovations and design the energy efficient appliances. The second most focus area is going to be the awareness program and incentive, which must be planned in a way which promotes healthy demand for efficient appliances. We have already seen that happening in Korea and Japan, where the financial incentives have been combined with the energy efficiency policies, and they have attained a leadership position in the world in this respect. The major demand for cooling that is going to come from the building sector, be it residential sector or whether it is commercial sector. And that is where our government is playing a major role in providing the energy efficient building codes. We have already contacted the states. There are a number of states whose building codes have been aligned with the building efficiency energy efficient requirement, and they are actively pursuing these policies. And also those states which have not so far adopted these codes, they are in the process of adopting these codes. Another organization or another alternative how we promote these policies and bring down the cost for efficient energy appliances is what we have seen in the Ujala program. The bulk procurement of the bulbs, the LED bulbs which ESL took on, this reduced the cost tremendously, and the adoption, we have all seen it how it was adopted. If the same thing can happen once we give the scale, I'm sure our manufacturers and the innovators, they can come up with very low cost efficient appliances. Probably ESL can play a very major role in it. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from it, what we require and what we have been lacking in India so far is a proper data system for various energy related aspects. Appliance usage, whether it is ACs, whether these are TVs or any of the energy consuming appliances, whether they are in the agriculture sector, the pumps or the tractors, the data pertaining to their usage, their efficiency is very poor. And we have been working the Niti Aayog, along with all the ministries, have been working on the proper data collection systems, so that once we have the proper data, the proper policies can be put up and the efficiencies can be promoted. So, in a nutshell, the efficiencies in the energy use is going to be the major focus of the overall energy system. We, as a responsible nation, have to reduce the climate impact of our energy use and energy efficiency, and it's going to be the major focus in it. This is only one of the steps or one of the aspects which is taken care of in the energy system. There are plenty of areas where the innovation is the necessity, and we would welcome the organizations who are in the energy space to partner with the organizations of the government and with Niti Aayog, so that we can come up with different kind of challenges and throw it open to the academia, industry, the startups, and the people who are really interested in working in the energy space. So I congratulate the organizers, the Rocky Mountain Institute and DST, for organizing this competition, and I'm sure we will get the air conditioners which our masses, they will be able to use it, they will be able to purchase it at a cheaper cost. Along with that, we will also have to come up with the proper financial models, probably the energy services or the leasing can be one of the tool which can reduce the initial cost for them, and they can pay for it from their reduced energy use. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm sure I wish a grand success to this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure hearing you speak on how policy can accelerate innovations and new technologies. We will now continue with the spotlights on the finalists and their breakthrough cooling technologies. We invite Gree Electric Appliances Incorporated of Tsinghua University. Delivering the presentation on behalf of the team is Baolang Wang, Associate Professor, Department of Building Science, Tsinghua University. Welcome back, sir. Nice to see you again.
The points are here. Thank you. Do I need? Yeah. Thank you. Firstly, thank you very much. Give us this opportunity to be here and show our thinking, our solution to all of you. I think you, all of the experts in this field. When the Amazon forest was burning, when the heat wave swept across the world, so we feel the climate change by ourselves. Gree, the biggest producer of the room air conditioner in the world, and Green, Tsinghua University, it's one of the top universities in engineering field in the world. We bonded together, tried to develop some solution for cooling the building without warming the earth. So we are greeners. That's the name of our team. In the selecting the technical roadmaps, we consider in the competition criteria, just like the climate impact reduction. We also pay more attention to something others, just like here I just show you adaptability, which means that we try to develop the technology which is can adaptive to the diversity of the local weathers and the users' operation habits. At the same time, the reliability, which means that our machine, our technology can work properly on the much critical on-site environment, just like the outdoor weather currently. And also the affordability for buying, for installation, especially for the maintenance, life cycle maintenance, very important. So our final solution is this advanced vapor compression system integrated with the evaporative cooling and PV panel. This hybrid system can work in 3 fundamental modes and their combinations according to the outdoor and indoor conditions. The high performance of our solution is reached by 3 level elevations. First one is the system level, which means what? Which means we cannot just look at the machine, we should step back, look wider. What if we can use more, as much as possible of the free and sustainable energy? Second level, the cycle level. We adopted an independent temperature and humidity control cycle. By that cycle, the evaporating temperature of the system can be largely enhanced. So eventually, the efficiency can be largely increased. And thirdly, the high performance components, very specific compressor and heat exchangers. So this figure just show you the installation and operation. Actually, from this figure, you can see our system just like a very typical split air conditioner with a room ventilator. So it's quite easy to install and very easy to maintenance. So it can be used in any kind of residential buildings. So last sentence, I'd like to say that it's the quite urgent moment. At this quite urgent moment, we are very pleasure to can contribute something for slowing down the temperature increase of the Earth, and we are be part of the efforts. So wish it's not too late for us. Wish all of us good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. I will see. Okay. You see here? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Falong. Congratulations to Team Gree Earth. I love that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You all, as you note, are represented by both Gree, a leader globally in air conditioning, and Tsinghua University, where you are a professor, a famous university known for all its amazing science, engineering, and innovation. Considering all of that leadership already present, what inspired you all to jump into the Global Cooling Prize and compete here?
Yes, actually, I think there are many reasons. Actually, but firstly, I think, just like I said at the beginning of the presentation, that the climate is changing. Everybody feels that. So it's not related to you, or just related to you, or just related to me. It's related to everybody. So everybody should do the work. So that's very fundamental. So Green and Tsinghua, we try to take that responsibility. So we want to join this very high bar competition. If we can reach that, we will try that. If we can reach that, so we will do some contribution for this.
Is trying to achieve that high bar some of why the collaboration between Gree and Tsinghua was formed?
Yes. Yeah, you know that Gree is a very big company. Last year he produced more than 600 million room air conditioner in the market. So 20% of the market share. So it's a very large market company. But fortunately, we have a good previous cooperation with Green. So Green has a very good experience in design new system, in develop the prototype, but we maybe have a little advantage in the cutting edge technology. So it's very easy for us to cooperate together. I think,
It sounds like collaboration is quite important to you. Do you see that collaboration as the source of being innovative and reaching higher bars?
Yes. Yes.
What is it that you all have been able to do to bring the expertise of Gree and the resources of Tsinghua together to help compete this? I know you've given opportunities to students, for example.
Yes, yes. Actually, we built a team. Actually, I should say we have a 12-person full-time team. So we have a very large team to do that. In that team, we have 4 graduate students. We have 8 full-time engineers from Korea. So by that, actually, we have sometimes we work together in the because Tsinghua is in Beijing, but Gree in South China, Zhuhai. But we work in the same place together. So it make us very easy to very frequently get the feedback from between each other, so can reach very good results.
I imagine that can be fun for a graduate student having an opportunity to work with
really.
some world leaders.
I should say that yes, this process is also very important for our students' education, because otherwise you don't have many chances to see the very deep things about the products. That's also a very good opportunity for educate our students.
So how, and maybe the students are part of the reason, but you mentioned the incredibly large number of units already produced by Gree.
Yeah.
What inspired you to leap into a new technology, new compressor design as you described, new approach entirely? How did that that innovation or that desire to innovate come about?
Yeah, just like I said that we realize that innovation from a much wider view, because if you just look into the air conditioner, maybe it's just when I first time see the requirement of the CUP or ER, I say that impossible. But when we step back, so we see the wider picture, maybe I say that maybe we have some chance. So by that, yes, we got that. We are very lucky to hear.
I know that Ian, you and the technical review committee are probably heartened to hear that it looked impossible to some folks like Gree.
Yeah, actually, I mean, we were chatting yesterday, and I asked what was your initial reaction, because we first met, I think, in Beijing at the workshop that we were doing there, to explain the Global Cooling Prize and the criteria and how it was going to work. And as I asked your initial reaction, and you said, it's impossible.
It's impossible, yes.
Nothing is impossible.
I just see a small story about that. Actually, when Campbell be in that introduction meeting, and in the round table, we have a very aged professor, The professor, when Campbell showed a computation criteria about the energy efficiency, the professor just say some words. I cannot repeat here,
Okay, so Ian presents this, scares you and this other professor. And
yes.
What then made you think it was possible to accomplish these goals? You put a lot on the line.
Yes, at the beginning, we don't know we can reach that.
So why do it?
But we are technical guys. So we like this kind of challenge. And we also, just like I said, no matter for Korean or for professors or for any scientist, I think in current situation, we have this kind of we have this kind of responsibility to take this challenge. That's I think, not just from market or from some science, also the responsibility is very important.
With taking on these challenges, which I know all of the teams have done, which is incredible, there are likely to come up other challenges for you all. Have you already seen some difficulties along the path, or are you confidently blazing away towards success?
No, yes. Even currently, we still have some very critical difficulties. We need to work that out in the following days. Just like currently, we have realized the heat exchangers. It's okay for us, But for us, we have a very specific compressor. Currently, it's just in the very beginning period. We have validated that idea, but we need to build that in a small volume, in a utility one. So it's quite challenging for us. But finally, Gree has a very large manufacturer of the compressor. So,
what do you think this might mean for Gree if you are able to accomplish these goals?
Yeah. I don't know, because I'm a Greek guy, but I can speak for him. Actually, I think the Gree is a very long-term vision company. He see quite a long distance, because not just earn money, but you should see the environment. You should long-term performance of the company. It's very important. So they also try to be a very technical leading company in the future. I think for them that's why we want to join this GCP.
And I think that's impressive. Very often, being a market leader means that you might be worried about showing what can happen. So pushing yourselves while all of these other teams are pushing as well is a testament to your desire to innovate, which I think the Technical Review Committee also recognized.
Yeah, it did. And, one of the things the Technical Review Committee, I think, appreciated about this application was just kind of highly integrated components and the concept of this controls approach to be able to ensure that the optimal component is utilized to provide the cooling in the right place at the right time, depending upon the ambient conditions. And maybe you can share something a little bit about that, because I noticed that on the slide that you had, which was a great slide, everything moving, that it actually didn't mention the innovation in the controls technology here.
Okay, yeah, I just show you some components, some cycle. I don't talk about the control strategy. Actually, it's the control strategy is quite complex. Currently, we just think about we control the machine according to the outdoor environment, temperature, humidity, and the indoor temperature, humidity. So if it's a dry season, outdoor is dry, so maybe we use the evaporator cooling. Or even if the outdoor is cold, maybe we just use the ventilator. And otherwise, maybe we can use the refrigeration mode. Sometimes we can combine them together, which means that two modes operated same time and at the same time. Another thing I think currently we still considering is that the outdoor particle sense, just like the hazy day, that's the future work. We should pay more attention. We should work on that.
Well, I can't wait to see where you all go next. As they say, doing something hard, or in this case impossible, is probably the thing most worth doing. So congratulations.
It's possible. You can believe me.
Well, here we are. I can't wait to see where you all go. I think we're all excited to have Gree and Tsinghua as a part of this competition. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baro.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is now time to invite Team Creighton, along with IIT Bombay, Porus Laboratories, and Infosys, to lead us through a brief presentation on their technology. Delivering the presentation on behalf of the team is Dr. Vijay Mehtar, Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President, Creighton Corporation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Namaskar. It's great to be here. Again, my name is Vijay Mehtar. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Creighton Corporation. So Creighton is a specialty chemical and materials company. Absolutely nothing to do with air conditioning. So that's why we feel even more humbled and honored to be recognized as a finalist. So many thanks to organizers and sponsors for giving us this opportunity. Okay, so I'm very excited on behalf of my team to share with you Project Nexar Cool. So Project Nexar Cool is based on two key wonderful materials. The first one is water. Why? Water has a very high enthalpy of evaporation, among the highest, in fact. Compared to other refrigerant materials that are being used, it is among the highest. And it's not surprising that water has been used by our ancestors as a cooling agent for centuries. In fact, when I was growing up, the Indian clay pot of matka was very common for the cool water, and so was the couscous curtain. In the summer days, you spray some water on these curtains and you'll get a nice cool breeze. So the technology works, but of course it has limitations. We all know those limitations, that it doesn't work in humid environments. So it's not really going to work very well in New Delhi or in Mumbai or in Houston, where I'm based. Fortunately, that's where we have another wonderful material called Nexar polymers made by Kraton. And what is very unique about this material, its outstanding moisture transport properties. So if you take a water container and if you cover it with polyethylene film, polyethylene is the material that you have in a plastic bag you get in the grocery store. You cover it, hardly any water come out. Okay. On the other hand, if you do the exact same thing with Nexar, more than 1,000 times the water vapor will come out. And it's very selective. It allows only the moisture to transport. And that is an enabling property that we would like to utilize. So now you have these two building blocks, water and the Nexar polymers, and that is the basis of our innovation. But that doesn't complete the story, so we need the team to put all these things together, and we have a fantastic team to support that. So we have team members from Kraton, supported by Indian Institute of Technology. We have Porous Labs, Infosys, and also supported by Texas A&M University, based in Texas. So with that, I would like to give you just a quick overview of how our technology works. I have a brief animation. So please recognize that this is one of the representative animations. Other representations are possible as well. So this is how the unit looks like from outside. As we step inside the room, what you see is an evaporative cooler. It's a water-based cooler. That is what is going to provide the cooling. And if you just again come back out, what you see is that the room air is coming through. It's getting cooled in the evaporative cooler, and the cold, humid air is going through the dehumidifier, where the humidity is removed and the cool, dry air is now thrown back into the room. So where does that humidity go? The ambient air comes into the dehumidifier, takes that humidity away, and throws back into the ambient. So if you zoom under the dehumidifier, what you see in the center is this Nexar membrane. On the left hand side, you see low humidity air. On the right hand, you see high humidity air. And what is unique about this Nexar polymer is that it is able to transport air from low humidity to high humidity against the natural diffusion. And that is at the core of our innovation. That is what allows us to operate effectively in high humid environments, whether it's New Delhi, whether it's in Mumbai, or whether that is in Houston. So that's the crux of our technology. In terms of the benefits, there are numerous. Right? So first thing is that it does not use any refrigerant. So the global warming potential is none. It is entirely based on water. In terms of the efficiency, it uses very little power. It's highly inefficient because of the way it transports the moisture across the membrane. The water consumption is relatively modest. Affordability, it meets the criteria in terms of what has been given to us by the committee. And in terms of the scalability, many of the components are already commercially available. The one component that is not available is related to the Nexar, and that remains the focus of our efforts in terms of scaling up and getting ready for the prototype. So that, to sum it up, the Project Nexar Cool is a very novel space cooling solution based on water and very novel Nexar polymer, and we believe that this will be an enabling technology that provides cooling for all without warming the planet. Thank you.
Paul, over to you and Ian.
And joined by your colleague as well.
Yes.
Well done, Vijay.
Yeah.
Did you? Well, and again to both of you and the entire team, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is fantastic to see you here. As you say, you are not in air conditioning as a group. So how did you hear about the Global Cooling Prize?
Yes, that's interesting that you ask. So as I said, I'm based in Houston, so I'm not unfamiliar with air conditioning. For those who don't know, Houston is considered the air conditioning capital of the world. Air conditioning made Houston possible because essentially it's built on a swamp. So I'm quite familiar with air conditioning, but not really the intricacies of it, other than just pushing the button on a thermostat and getting wowed how beautifully it works. And also getting shocked at the air conditioning electricity bill these days, because Houston you get a lot of those. But really, how this project started is back in June of this year, I was visiting Mumbai. As you know, it was very hot and humid this summer, and I had a meeting with Professor Guruswamy, and then he mentioned about this Global Cooling Prize. So we had this Nexar polymer that I mentioned, and that's when we started thinking, well, is there an opportunity for us to look at Nexar polymer as a solution? So the way we were looking at it is that, well, we have this hammer that is Nexar polymer. We're trying to find a nail for it, and we thought maybe this Global Cooling Prize is the nail that we want to hit on.
Thank you then.
So that was really the beginning of it.
Well, it can't have been that easy. You also brought together 4 different organizations, quite excellent and known in their own fields. It can't be that you just put together an application and the next day it was all perfect, no?
No, it wasn't. Right? So the initial concept started with Dr. Guruswamy and I, along with another team member here in Keynote, but we realized that air conditioning is not our cup of tea. So we needed to bring in some additional expertise, and that's where we brought in Infosys engineering services team. They're world-class organizations. They brought that expertise. And then relative to Nexar, we needed someone to make it cost effectively, and that's why we brought Porous Labs in. So that now completes the team.
This is another example of how collaboration can help drive innovation. Have you found that collaboration between the 4 organizations to be smooth or exciting or tell me about it.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, it's been fun, let me put it that way. But you know, that doesn't mean it's always been smooth. Coming from different backgrounds, you know, Vijay and I are both chemical engineers with an expertise in materials. And when we bring that together with people who are doing calculations and telling us how far we can go, that led to a lot of how do I put it? Healthy debate. But that's the fun part, right? And when you're really pushing the envelope, bringing in new materials, I think we had a lot of fun doing all of that.
That innovation is never a straight road, and if you're all in agreement, you're almost certainly not pushing further. But if you're not in air conditioning, despite bringing amazing expertise together, that makes you somewhat of outsiders to this. And we've seen a couple of large organizations that work directly in air conditioning. That can also be an advantage sometimes. How have you seen yourselves in terms of coming into a new field and trying to disrupt it from the outside?
So I'll let Guru comment as well. The way I see it is that either we're complete fools and who think that we can solve one of the biggest problems that hasn't been solved since the invention of the Willis Carrier, or we are a complete dark horse that we think we have a solution to this problem.
Yeah, I think there's an advantage to coming in and looking at a problem with fresh eyes. I mean, there's been some amazingly smart people who've looked at the problem of air conditioning over the years. But I think coming in with a materials perspective gives us a different it gives us a different ability to look at the same problem. And there's been a lot of innovation in materials. Now, harnessing that into the air conditioning challenge, I think that's the fun bit.
Do you think that taking this new approach is enabled by this prize format, or does this give you an opportunity to try something new in some ways?
Absolutely. And without the global cooling price competition, we would not be here, period. It's just that it provided us the platform, the opportunity to think about and collaborate with other organizations. So without that, it's not possible. So many really thanks to the organizers and sponsors for making it possible. We would not be here without the competition.
And I think the technical review committee saw some of this sort of innovative new approach coming from outside as quite intriguing. No, Ian?
Yes, I mean there was 9 of us on the technical review committee, and there was a lot of explanation between us as to what we actually thought this was when we saw the we saw the detailed technical application, and also a team coming outside the air conditioning industry, and we continued to go deeper and test each other and ask each other questions, and came away very excited with what this seemed to have the potential to do. One of the questions I would love for you to share with the room, and I know we chatted a little bit about this yesterday, was you mentioned about Nexar being the hammer looking for the nail to hit. And it would be terrific if you could share with the room of what Nexar was, the original development of the polymer, and what you'd contemplated that it could be used for.
So Nexar polymer was developed over the last 10 years by Kraton, and the application that we were originally targeting was in fabric coating. And the thought there was that if you wear the fabric with the Nexar coating on it, it will be able to transport sweat much more efficiently, giving you this cooling effect. So in athletic apparel, if you have that, if you are jogging, if you're exercising, it should provide you the comfort cooling. So that was a thought. Unfortunately, it failed. It failed badly because it was a very subjective application. So giving athletes 2 t-shirts, one with coating, other without coating, and asking them, well, do you see a difference? We were not able to quantify that very well. So we stopped the program. So we had the technology. We had the technology available. It was just, we were just looking for the opportunity where we could take it. And this competition came at the right time.
Yeah, it may have found a higher cooling.
Yeah.
And here I was hoping that we could have a Nexar air conditioner and wear Nexar clothing and be doubly cool while sitting in. They do say, though, that very often the most disruptive innovations come from far outside of a field. They weren't anticipated to be a part of that. Is that something that you all have seen intentionally? You say you were looking for kind of a nail to hit, or is this all serendipity, all good luck that the Global Cooling Prize came along?
Oh, certainly it's a serendipity. It is. Had it not been that we had a meeting with Professor Guruswamy and he making us aware that there is a competition like that, it's unclear whether we would have uncovered this, because again, as I said, is that we have nothing to do with air conditioning. So we may not have even found it.
Yeah, but it's serendipity meeting a prepared mind, I think.
It sounds like you're all having fun with this.
We are.
Which is good. Innovating should be fun because it's hard, as you say. In the end, talk about your team's motivation. Talk about what is driving you in being a part of this.
Yeah. Well, we are incredibly energized and excited about the opportunity to solve a problem of this magnitude, and especially coming from outside the industry. That's really what drives us.
That's fantastic.
So, doing good science or doing good technology is either changing the way people think or changing the way they live their lives, right? And in this case, it's sort of an opportunity to do both, really push the limits of thermodynamics at the same time, provide affordable and energy efficient cooling solution. I think that will change the way people live their lives. So I think it's a very powerful premise.
Yeah, and Kraton as a company, sustainability is very, very important initiative for us. We call it as a positive difference to, of course, investors, employees, but the other important is the positive difference to the communities. So this program fits very well in the sustainability initiative that we have in our company.
And it sounds like, I know we spoke about this yesterday, everyone from IIT, from Porus, from Infosys feels quite similarly that there is an alignment behind both wanting to drive and innovate and do that in a way that serves the needs of the world and the planet. Well, we are incredibly proud to have you as a part of the Global Cooling Prize. Congratulations again to your team. Thank you both for being here, and good luck. All the next of this. Well done.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So actually, we're just going to take a 15-minute break for tea coffee, which is served on the lawns. Please do come back on time because we have a packed schedule and we have only 2 hours before we need to vacate the halls. So we'll be starting at 3:35 on the sharp. See you then. Thank you.
request everyone to please be seated. We are starting very shortly. Hello everyone, may I request everyone to be kindly seated. We are beginning with the next session. Wonderful. In our next session, we will have keynote addresses by some globally renowned experts on market-based mechanisms to scale sustainable cooling innovations. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce our first keynote for the afternoon, Mr. John Room, South Asia Regional Director for Sustainable Development at the World Bank. John covers urban, water, agriculture, environment, social development, climate, and disasters as his profiles. Prior to this, Mr. Room led the World Bank's global strategy and work on climate change for 4 years. John, welcome.
Can I close it? As this thing slips. Very good.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be back. Unfortunately, I had to rush out after the morning session to a couple of other meetings, including on air pollution, which is the other big 159 that we have to aim at. I've got two 159s in India. One is cooling, one is Delhi air pollution. So this morning, I talked about the important opportunity that we have to deliver on this triple win. Development opportunities from cooling, adaptation, and mitigation wins through higher productivity, less food waste, new jobs, all the things we talked about this morning. This afternoon, what I want to talk about a little bit more about is how do we get there? What are the kinds of things that we need to do in order to deliver on these opportunities? And I will focus primarily on space cooling. I'll leave the cold chain and those elements out on the side. So I think the starting point would be sort of why we're here. So clearly new cooling technology is important, and technology that combines the greenhouse gas emitting refrigerant and the energy efficiency into one machine. Because in the end, that's where the manufacturers come from. So moving that technology is important. So as I said this morning, thanks again to RMI for having put this together and the participants for putting it. It's an absolute no-brainer, we need this. However, it's not enough. So the first thing we've got to be able to do is to deploy this technology quickly. How do we accelerate this and then do some things around it? So I think we have learned from things in the cooling sector, but also in related sectors, some of the things that we can use and some of the things that are important. So first objective, drive the cost down as quickly and as aggressively as possible. Not the theoretical cost, but the manufactured cost, down that cost curve. Two things that have worked well on this in other sectors, and some cases related sectors. Number one, bulk procurement. Okay, if you can get a public sector to do a bulk procurement order of X 100,000 units of a particular thing, sends a signal, you can come in at scale, manufacturers can come in, and you can drive down the cost. We've seen this work to date in India in a number of sectors. I'm sure Saurabh will talk a little bit about that. Second thing we can do is some form of advanced purchase commitment or some guarantee that says, okay, you bid whatever, but we will provide some upfront funding, we'll provide some subsidy, we'll do something that will make it happen. And you can do this with or without a subsidy, although I would argue that that subsidy has to be explicit and it has to be declining. Because ultimately, what are we after? We're after trying to drive the market to the long-term sustainable cost structure for that equipment. And we're trying to push it over the edge. And in this business, we can justify on economic grounds that subsidy, we can calculate what it is, and we know about reducing it. What's the second thing we need to do? And it was touched a little bit, I think Ian and others touched on it this morning. We've got to try and help people move from a purchase decision that is only based on the capital cost to think a little bit more of the life cycle cost. How do you get people to take into account the energy savings that's taking place? Because right now, although theoretically you should be looking at the life cycle cost, many consumers at the consumer level and even some companies are buying only on the basis of capital cost, and then you don't get the energy. So what are the things that we can do on that? Okay, first thing, simple, better labeling and data. So you got a label, you know what it is, you know what kinds of things you're getting. Second thing, cost-reflective energy prices and environmentally reflective with a carbon tax. That will drive the energy price up, it'll begin to bite. Third, changes in procurement policy. Easier in the public sector. You could say public sector procurement has to explicitly take into account life cycle cost in the procurement based on ABC, and we can encourage the private sector to do that. We also have some institutional arrangements in that, in many cases, in big buildings, the way the rental structure works in the market is those cost savings from the units is not borne or benefited by the people renting the units. Who saves, who doesn't, and are those aligned? Again, maybe not a silver bullet, but all these things can help. There are also models that we've seen with ESCOs, cooling service companies, competition for different business models. There are things that have been done and can be done. Third, actively manage the transition to new technologies. So So what do we mean here? A framework for technology transfer and capacity building, training for domestic manufacturers, testing labs, import controls or banning of certain kinds of equipment. Sometimes effective, has some downsides, maybe not as effective as some of the other things, but they have been tried and we've seen how it is. Fourth, very important, we've got to work on the financial sector because a lot of these deals are going to have to be financed either at a retail level or at an industrial level. Build the familiarity with the banks for energy efficient investments. In many cases, if banks are coming in to a new industry, they've got to train up their credit officers, they've got a transaction cost going over, they've got a business here they know that's earning a certain amount of money, they've got a new business over here. Are they going to move in? Well, if the rates are not there, not really. But there are things we can do. We can provide technical assistance. We can provide a backstop guarantee if they make some losses in the first couple of years. We've done something very successfully with SBI on rooftop solars on this at the moment. We can do providing data on energy efficiency performance of equipment. We can work on reducing the transaction costs for financial institutions by finding an aggregation mechanism so they don't have to do deal by deal, but you can have an aggregator through various mechanisms. So there's things that we can do with the financial sector. So far I've been talking largely, but not exclusively, about the equipment side of things. Clearly, we can also be thinking, we have to be thinking about efficiently cooled buildings and urban design. Because anything we do on the equipment is not going to get us where we need to be, and depending on who you talk to, you can maybe get another 3 to 5 degrees out of the building, 3 to 5 degrees out of the urban design, depending on where you are. So first of all, there's a huge win. In a country like India, half of the total amount of new building in urban areas to be built in the next 15 years is probably equal to the total amount of building that's already been put in place historically. So you've got new build. So putting these kinds of designs in upfront at new build offers huge benefits. And you've got issues here, window units versus systems, area cooling and heating systems, most places cooling here, code standards for building, training, guidelines, all of these things can be done. And finally, we need skills and education. What I'm pointing to is that in order to accelerate this, we need a multi-pronged strategy. Now, a lot of what I've talked about here are generic actions that have been tried in different places. I can't guarantee in a particular case in India we should do all of them. We should do some, a combination. This needs to be worked out, and this is why we need an action plan like the India action plans, but we need to go beyond where the India action plan is at the moment. Wouldn't it be great if we could have a matrix of key policy actions that are needed in India in order to, of all of these things that I've talked about, what do we think is the highest priority to scale up and roll out? Can we get agreement amongst the stakeholders to do it and a plan to implement it? Rather than I've done this, you've done this, let 1,000 plows boom, to be a little bit more deliberate about what are the policy and institutional changes that we need in order to get there. One final point that I would make on these plans is that underlying all of this, since I think there's a lot of things the private sector can do, but public policy is important, a lot of this requires political will. And part of this is helping people, number one, politicians, number one, understand why this is important. Number two, make it clear that there are some technical solutions and opportunities out there, preferably opportunities that have been tried elsewhere. And so I think that building that political commitment, sharing knowledge of some ideas that have been worked, putting in place an integrated plan, focusing on prioritized policies that are necessary, and then frankly managing the heck out of it. Okay, you can think about anything that we've been successful as human beings in doing. Okay, we can talk about this prize. You can talk about what India did on renewable energy. You can talk about your EESL. You can talk about the 159 I talked about this morning. Once you've got the inspiration and once you've got the leadership, somebody once said, it's 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. And we've actually got to project manage the hell out of this stuff. I'm saying, boom, 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 in order to make it happen and not leave it to chance. I think that gives us an opportunity to move forward. So as I said this morning, We're very excited about this agenda. We'd be very keen to be supporting India more effectively and more at a greater scale on this agenda, not only because it's important for India, but it's important for the globe as a whole. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Room. It's been amazing to actually hear you speak twice today. Very inspirational. Thank you. It is my pleasure now to introduce our next keynote speaker for the afternoon, who will be speaking about market instruments to accelerate climate-friendly cooling for all. Mr. Saurabh Kumar is the Managing Director for Energy Efficiency Services Limited. As an environmentalist and policymaker, he has served the UN on deputation handling environmental issues in the Asia-Pacific region. He has been with the Union Ministry of Power for nearly 15 years and has led ESO's successful implementation of several ambitious energy efficiency projects in India. Welcome, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you very much. Let me first, at the outset, thank the Department of Science and Technology, Mission Innovation, RMI, AEEE, CEPT for inviting us here. This is something which is, as John said, an extremely important topic for a country like India. And before I get into what I have to, let me lay out certain facts which actually are now becoming starker by the day for a country like India. Number one, our air conditioner penetration is not more than 8 to 10%. There are reports, studies done by BE, by GIZ. There's a total stock of air conditioners about 50 million as of now. And looking at the efficiency levels that the air conditioners had, that's about 70 gigawatts of demand which is standing. There are certain estimates, particularly by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, which says that the penetration may go up to 30%, which is almost 4 times. Now, if that were to happen, and even if I take the business as usual efficiency gains that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency does, they estimate that the incremental cooling demand between now and 2030 will be 150 gigawatt. Now, imagine this is a country which is high on ambition as far as renewable energy is concerned. We are committing 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030 out of a total demand or the installed capacity of nearly 800 gigawatts. Can you run your grid with 50% or 40% renewable energy where your incremental demand for cooling is 150 gigawatts? Let me give you the second example of this city where we are, and forget about the air pollution, that is a separate matter. Between last year and this year, the peak demand rose by 30%. 80% of the peak increase was only due to cooling, only. So last year, this summer, the peak demand stood at 7,500 megawatt. The off-peak demand is about 4,000, 3,500 megawatt. The grid is becoming much more peakier. What is happening, and I was talking to the couple of CEOs of Delhi distribution utilities, shouldn't be saying this on record, but it's a fact that the boon is they only have 200 megawatts of renewables as of now. And they are really rethinking, can we increase our ambition to 2,000, which they have promised as per the regulatory requirement. So these are issues that are there, very evident in this country, and while we would like to pursue the ambitions of renewable energy, but the hard reality that the grid becoming peakier, you need cooling power from 6 p.m. to whatever time the cooling is still used, when you don't have renewable power. Number two, a very intuitive study, and I would recommend everybody who's there in the cooling space to read, is a study done by Center for Science and Environment. I think they released it about a couple of months ago, or maybe a month ago. And it is very aptly named as Midsummer Nightmare. Seriously, this is the title of the study. And they look at what is happening to the cooling demand in this city. And it is specific to Delhi. Initially, the peak demand used to be between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. This year, it has gone well past 12 a.m. and maybe becoming much, much more. So in this backdrop, I think I must compliment, I must thank RMI, DST, Mission Impossible, that this is the right thing to do as far as the cooling efficiencies are concerned. We can't go in for incremental gains in cooling any longer. Perhaps it will be very difficult for the country to look at energy sustainability. We need disruptions in technology as far as cooling is concerned. So, as I said, when I came in here, I did talk to a couple of innovators, I think, who are finalists here. The first point that I wanted to say that we are completely committed to this. We have shown by our actions that we went ahead and ordered air conditioners 2 years ago of efficiency that were not available in the market. I must thank the industry present here that they did deliver us. They did deliver us the quality at a very reasonable price, and we hope to continue this program as we move ahead. So this is something that John alluded to. Yes, bulk procurement is one thing that can drive change, but it has a limitation. At the end of it all, I am a commercial organization. I can only take that much of risk which I can manage. But what about policymakers? I referred to a LBNL study which said 2030 will require 150 gigawatts of incremental demand. It also says if our policies and regulations show a bit more ambition, you can reduce that demand by as much as 60%. I mean, sorry, about 40%. It can go down to 90 gigawatts, which is still high, but certainly better than 150 gigawatts. So I think the first thing that we possibly, all of us sitting here, need to encourage regulators and policymakers as well as the industry is to enhance and up the ante as far as the efficiencies are concerned. And I think today's event possibly will give that confidence to not just the industry but also the governments that it is possible. If you demand a higher efficiency, there are people who are willing to do that. And it is not necessary that the prices go up, which is the oft repeated argument. And let me spend a minute on this, that the general feeling that all of us have that if you increase efficiencies as per the regulations, the prices will increase. Certainly not. The Government of India, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency started the star labeling program for ACs in 2007. The efficiencies have gone up. I'm talking about the minimum energy performance standards between 2007 and now by as much as 50%. If you look at the inflation adjusted cost, they've actually declined. So it's completely something which is not true. Doesn't and this has been the story across economies, across places. So I think the first thing that I would urge upon all the stakeholders here, government, non-government stakeholders, multilateral bodies, that we have to urge the government to be slightly more ambitious in terms of efficiency. The second point that I wanted to make is the space cooling thing that again John mentioned about, and also the intersection with the Montreal Protocol. I'll again go back to my example of Delhi. And why I'm saying Delhi and Mumbai is that many cities, I mean, again, India is a country which, if you look at 2050 or 2060, there will be at least 6 mega cities with population more than 50 million. Now, there's hardly any city in the world which has a population of 50 million. So we have to really figure out how do we manage and deal with this urbanization that we are going to see. And therefore, as I said, the cooling demand goes up by 30% every year. I have no doubts in my mind that we'll see something around 9,000 megawatt in the next calendar year during summer. Now, while getting bulk power is not a challenge at all, at least for a while in this country, I mean, adding distribution network in a city like Delhi, Mumbai, in commercial areas, it's not a very easy task. A. B. It costs a lot of money. Unfortunately, there is no debate that has started off of decentralized generation and cooling. Something that has happened very rapidly across various countries in the world. I mean, Europe, for example, combined heat and power is something which is extremely common. But there is no policy, there is no incentives, there is no even nudge for people for market to go there. And why? And this was something we were discussing with John Room in a round table yesterday. Because the government works in silos, it requires at least 3-4 different ministries to come together. Power, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Petroleum Ministry, if we were to use gas as one of the things, Ministry of Environment and Forest. We don't have that. And the solution is simple. If in the hotel that we are sitting here suddenly decides to double the capacity, I can put up a gas engine, there is piped natural gas available, and do what we call hot water, electricity and cooling all at one place, where my efficiency goes up by 90%. The distribution utility does not need to invest in transformers and cables and whatnot. You also, I mean, while gas is a fossil fuel, but certainly much better than coal. And we know that renewable energy cannot run a base load for a while. And also, the technology of trigeneration uses lithium bromide as the refrigerant. So you get out of the HFCs as well. But then, while the potential of this is more than 150 gigawatts, 15 gigawatts, what we see in this country is only maybe 100 megawatt of installation. So I think my second thing in a room which is filled with people, experts, stakeholders, key people, opinion makers, that there is a need for a dialogue, for a comprehensive, regulatory-based approach to all this. Market mechanisms will work, certainly can enhance implementation, get more investments, but there has to be an enabling underlying regulatory environment. We have been working on this space cooling as well. We would like to take the next step of also looking at district cooling, where we look at a larger piece and do a decentralized cooling, electricity, and so on and so forth. But as of now, as I said, what is lacking in the country is an underlying regulatory framework, which I think needs to come up very, very quickly. So with these remarks, let me thank once again Department of Science and Technology, AEEE, RMI for inviting me. We are extremely excited by what we have seen today, at least what I have seen today. I'll be very happy and will welcome all the winners with open hands to EESL. We have just concluded our own innovation challenge. This is something which is very close to our heart. Please do reach out to us. We will make sure to see whatever best possible we can do in order to scale this up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. Your contributions to scaling efficient cooling in India has been an inspiration for many organizations across the globe. Our next speaker is one of the most well-known personalities working on climate in India. Dr. Ajay Mathur is the Director General of TERI, the Energy and Resources Institute, and a member of the Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change. He was formerly the Director General of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency in Government of India and has led initiatives such as the Star Labeling Program for appliances, the Energy Conservation Building Code, and the Perform, Achieve and Trade Program for energy-intensive industries. He's a global leader on technological approaches to address climate change, and recently he joined the global group of industrial, financial, and think tank leaders to co-chair an Energy Transitions Commission. It is absolutely our honor and privilege to have him keynote today with us. Sir, please welcome.
A very good afternoon to all of you. And I can't tell you how pleased I am, despite the air outside, to be here with you addressing issues of cooling, which is inextricably linked to indoor air quality as well. We do realize that this need is pervasive across all different sectors of the economy, not just buildings, but also cold chains, transport refrigeration, etc. I don't think it is an exaggeration to say that cooling is related to human health and productivity. And on the other hand, for this country, it also provides a huge opportunity to value add to the food chain and reduce the kinds of food losses that occur every year. Because of this cross-sectoral nature, we believe that cooling is immensely important in all sectors, even in development sectors apart from the lifestyle sectors, and therefore the kind of India that we see tomorrow will be dependent on the cooling that we provide today. Having said that, as temperatures continue to rise, the use of air conditioners and fans to stay cool will become an even greater necessity. I think that is something that we all agree on. And already it accounts for a very large percentage of the electricity used not only in India but globally. But think of this, with just 12% of households having air conditioners, we still see that approximately 50% of the peak load that occurs in Delhi is because of air conditioning. In other words, the vast amount of the peak load in urban areas would be drawn from air conditioning as we move to incomes becoming more in Delhi, but more importantly in cities across the country. This is a very strong driver, and supplying electricity to these air conditioners therefore comes at a huge cost, particularly a huge environmental cost. So on the one hand, providing thermal comfort is important. On the other hand, the environmental cost of cooling is also important. This is what led to the creation of the Cooling Action Plan, which has been discussed here by multiple people. So to introduce energy efficient technologies with climate friendly refrigerants becomes a key issue. It is extremely important that we move to super efficient equipment. We move to refrigerants which are climate friendly, something that Mr. Saurabh Kumar just addressed as well. Therefore, the transformation to super efficiency with low GWP has to be facilitated by policy interventions, business models, and a public narrative that enhances the role of cleaner energy and cleaner refrigerants in the cooling that we get. We have seen that this works. Whether it is the star labeling program, which saw that the average average efficiency of air conditioners that are sold between 2010 and 2018 increased by 50%, or energy use decreased by 50% as a result of the star labeling program. On the other hand, the super efficient AC program that ESL pushed took it even further. And if you look at the top line, the decrease in energy use is almost 75% compared to the 2010 number. In other words, instruments and public policies work. It is not as if this is something new. The LED program that Saurabh so ably managed in this country, through which the cost of a LED bulb fell to from $5 to 60 cents in just about 2 years, based on a business model which said that people paid less than the savings that they made. on a monthly basis, enabled this to come about together with demand aggregation on the one hand and bulk procurement on the other. Now, clearly, as we move ahead, the role of industry is absolutely paramount. We need to make sure that the signals that industry sees makes it worth their while to invest in super efficient air conditioning devices. Therefore, it is an absolutely opportune time for the global cooling prize. And awards which recognize the initiative and the proactiveness of industries, of users, of public policy, which helps enable this transition. Together, all the stakeholders together have the potential to spur industry on the one hand, stimulate innovation on the other hand, and prime the markets for transformative change. We believe for this, we need to have a broad coalition. The broader objective of the coalition would be to provide thermal comfort to all and reduce food wastage. I believe that those are the pillars on which a coalition can be based. The proposed coalition could look at widespread dissemination of best practices. That's the first thing that it could do. Best practices in installation, in servicing, in maintenance. Promote non-conventional cooling solutions, which means even non-refrigerant cooling solutions, or hybrids based on both refrigerant and non-refrigerant solutions. And we need to customize them for the kinds of consumers that we are looking at, which means that they will certainly be different across different geographies, but could even be different for different parts of a country like India. This is a challenge because the industry has tended to look at India as one market. And the third is promote R&D. We believe that the global cooling prize will go a long way in bringing about this transformation and enabling the members of this coalition to be able to come together and gel into this group that can help drive change. I thank you for your attention, and I'm delighted that we are now at the edge of this global cooling prize. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathur, for joining us today. I know you have a packed schedule and a flight to catch, but from all of us here, your work has been an inspiration, so thank you so much. Now, it's time to return to our finalist spotlights, and we are ready to invite and hear more about the technology from Team M² Thermal Solutions, and they will offer an insight into the technology that they have proposed to the Global Cooling Prize. Delivering the presentation on behalf of the team is Ryan Melsert, co-founder and CEO of M² Thermal Solutions. Over to you.
You wanted a wire and mic, right? This is fine. Cordless is right here.
Well, thank you, everybody. As you said, my name is Ryan Melsert, the CEO of M² Thermal Solutions. We're very happy to be here and to meet everyone here the past few days. A lot of people have touched on the main topic we're here to talk about today, which is really the dramatic difference between incremental innovation and disruptive innovation. We've kind of danced around the issue a lot today, and that difference is really what got my team and I to apply to this competition back at the start of the summer. So what we've talked about, if we just look a really simple diagram here, everyone probably knows about this S curve of technology innovation. Across all industries, there is usually this very flat portion where new technology comes to market. It's in the product introduction phase. There's not much adoption yet. People are really wary of it still. It may not be economical, it may not perform well. And then there is this critical point where we hit this adoption, and when it hits those numbers, it's adopted very quickly. It rises, and then as it gets very mature, again, we get to this plateau where this technology tends to be just in the incremental refinement area. And it will stay there for quite a while until another S-curve at a higher point comes along. And there's a point early on where this new technology really can't compete with the mature one yet. And you can get stuck in that innovation region and just churn there over and over until something comes and helps push you ahead and push you above what is an already established mature technology. So that's something that this competition, the Global Cooling Prize, really can help address, to take these maybe higher performing, high potential technologies that are in that churn region and help put a framework together to pull them above that threshold and help an industry move to the next curve. When we look at some examples across other industries, just as a function of time, we see, back in the 1950s, there were black and white televisions. There was a generational change, the color televisions, then the flat screens, and now everybody has a TV in their pocket, essentially, with a smartphone. Other industries have those similar trends, but on the bottom, when we look at air conditioning, back in the early 1800s, people discovered we can go and cut blocks of ice out of lakes in the north and put them in insulated rail cars and send them down to the south, and then really have perishable food that would last much longer. That was a huge innovation. A few decades later, 1850s, the vapor compression cycle really came to market first for ice generation, then early 1900s, more in the space cooling, and then that's really about it as far as generational changes. There have been many incremental improvements since then, but as all these other industries have moved forward, the air conditioning system is really sitting at the same basic principles that existed over a century ago. So if somebody was to walk into your living room today and you have this old 100-pound black and white television in your living room, it would be laughable. But because air conditioning systems sit in our back closets, in our basements, under the hoods of our vehicles, they're not as consumer facing. So people tolerate this lack of innovation and really just stick with this very old technology. So when we looked at this, we said, we don't want an incremental improvement, so we're intentionally going to ignore the vapor compression cycle itself. Start at addressing only the physics-based limitations. Where are we truly constrained? And we said, if you really try to define the problem, the issue is that we are trying to move heat and moisture from reservoirs inside confined space up into outdoor areas. What would we use for that heat pumping and for that concentration gradient pumping to really make that happen from a fundamental basis? And my team went back and forth, very, very early stage, napkin drawings, whiteboards, physics-based models, building small-scale demonstration units, and saying, really, what was the challenge? What should we do? So we came up with a design where we said, we know that we don't want to have a single system with a single degree of freedom where we cannot independently address sensible heat and latent heat. So we intentionally had two separate components that could independently control both the temperature of a confined space and the moisture of a confined space. The vapor compression cycle now really can only control to one of those at a time. So in order to meet one, it usually has to either overcool or over dry a space, resulting in much more energy than is really needed. And we also use this to design a system that uses absolutely no refrigerants, has no compressor of any kind, and has no high pressure pumps. So the only electrical loads are fans for circulating air and liquid pumps for circulating water. And in addition, because we don't have any refrigerant or high energy consuming components or exotic materials, we were able to build this system for an upfront price that is even less than current units today, while still achieving that 500% increase in global impact. That was the goal of this competition. So this is still very top level what we're showing here today, but we're looking forward to building out our prototype and then sharing the results with the rest of the team as we move forward. So thank you.
done, Ryan. Jacob. We're joined by one of the co-founders of M Squared, Jacob, as well. And congratulations to you too, as well here with making it this far and trying something brand new. It seems that strikes me as a little scary to return to first principles, but I know that you two like to do that in your lives, no? And then you like to go back to the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's the opposite of scary. It's empowering to really pretend that there are constraints that don't exist, that you have to start with something because it's established as a working place instead of only really looking at physics-based constraints. I think that would be scarier.
Well, I also know, describe the story of how you two started in on this, because you've also both have a deep background in energy generally and are now working in cooling. And you've been through some of this return to how you solve a problem before. Please, I'd love you to share the story of how you both met.
Right, so we did meet, we worked at designing one of the largest lithium-ion battery factories, in the world about 5 years ago. We were doing designs of the industrial scale cooling system and really we were challenged to start from first principles, to not just build anything off the shelf, to always have a reason for why we're doing something that could be reduced to a fundamental law of physics. And then after we moved on, Jake and I both really enjoy this field. When we're working on thermal science solutions like this, it really doesn't even feel like work. So even though we didn't work for the same company anymore, we would just be sharing ideas with each other, sharing drawings. We ended up moving pretty far away from each other and still would just send each other models of, hey, this is what could happen, build something we thought was really promising. And what we really work together on is calling each other out and really looking at the fundamentals and challenging each other to make designs better. So always knowing, I came up with a design and said, this looks too good to be true, find what's wrong with it for me. And send it over, and he would look at a very rigorous basis and came back and say, there's nothing wrong with it, but we could also do this and make it even better. But now it's even better now, there has to be something wrong with it. And now send it back and say, you find my mistake for me. So just going back and forth on a very iterative basis, we've worked really complementary together.
Is that right? Looking for each other's mistakes is how you work best together?
Yeah, I'd say so. We're not afraid to call each other out if we think the other one is full of crap, essentially. But it's a very complementary process where we have similar but yet a little bit different backgrounds, and that kind of allows us to approach a problem from different perspectives. But like Ryan said, even being on the opposite side of the country for some time, we're back together now. Luckily, it was kind of a great process to have someone that we can bounce off ideas and not be working in a vacuum.
So you both meet years ago working to build a massive cooling system for one of the largest lithium-ion battery systems in the world, and along comes the Global Cooling Prize that says, please build a better room air conditioner. These don't strike me as quite the same. What was it about the Global Cooling Prize that inspired you both to think this is a problem we can solve?
I mean, it really is the same skill set. Whether it's a megawatt scale system or a small kilowatt scale system, it's the same fundamentals that are needed. And that's why if you start off with an existing problem and try to move forward, then you're in trouble. But if you always start with the definition of the problem and work from there, then it's really the same process, whether it's a very large or very small system. And like I was showing there, we were in that kind of innovation churn zone where we had systems we really thought were competitive, but we had different jobs we were doing, a lot goes on just in life, and we said, this looks great, but we really weren't taking the next step to pull it to fruition. And that's where a prize like this really comes in and puts the framework together, connects us with manufacturers and sponsors and these testing systems, and really help kick us from just the discussion phase into the implementation side.
So napkins are being mailed back and forth across the country through your ideas, virtual napkins.
Screenshots, yeah.
Screenshots. And along comes the prize. So M Squared was created in response to the prize to make your ideas reality?
Yeah, like Ryan was saying, in some of our previous work, we had ideas that actually seemed to apply to this field. We were looking at them for maybe other reasons, kicking around these ideas in the back of the mind for quite some time. But it was really the Global Cooling Prize that really kind of incentivized us to move forward and really kind of focus in on creating something and spending the time to develop it. I think without it, we would probably just be talking about, hey, wouldn't this be a great idea? But this really kind of made us, gives us the drive to move forward.
And I know the technical review committee was impressed by this novel, outside-the-box approach. Ian, speak to that.
No, it absolutely was, and I think probably a pretty unique approach to actually dealing with the dehumidification or dealing with the latent load, and maybe you can share a little bit more about that with the room here.
Right, so a lot of designs see the latent load as a penalty, as something to overcome, but we really saw that as an opportunity. So the performance of our system actually increases as the humidity of the ambient goes up. So we took what was a limitation and turned it into a strength. So we're moving forward now, proving that out at even larger scale that we'll be able to share with the teams as we go forward.
How do you take this forward? You two clearly are people that like to go back and tackle hard problems from the beginning. What does this look like as you iterate and develop through the course of this prize, and also beyond? Where do you hope this goes?
For this scale, really what works best is, a small, dedicated, nimble team with very fast turnover cycles, proving things out at the very small scale. So individual fume hoods, small environmental chambers, optimizing the critical components, and we always like to tie that type of empirical testing with our physics-based analytical modeling. So then taking the empirical data from those tests, adding that back into our analytical model to refine it further, and going back and forth between the two. So you can go very, very far with a small amount of resources when you do design that way. And then once we're satisfied that we've de-risked the technology enough and have a high enough performance, that's when we go to building the full prototype systems and work with manufacturing partners to see what it would take to do this at a much larger scale.
I know taking it to that larger scale, and we've heard this from some of the other teams, involves a lot of iteration on ideas, and as you both discussed, trying to find out where the failure points are, and then trying to fail forward beyond there. What do you anticipate some of the big challenges that you're going to face in the next 6 to 12 months developing out this pretty innovative approach?
I think there's a big difference between making something work in a model and then making it work in a controlled fume hood, and then making it work in a laboratory, and then making it work in the field. So obviously just the time scale and the deviations you get to from what you really think will happen, and then even just the outlier, side of the bell curve, things that can happen to you, as far as making something really work with almost no maintenance for months and years at a time. So that implementation side has huge risks beyond just the physics of the system.
I mean, thankfully during the prize you'll get a chance to see exactly that and demonstrate in field-based opportunities.
Exactly.
I get the sense though, Jacob, you like those outliers, those end of the bell curve things that come and disrupt the approach to how you were looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, we both, this is the Global Cooling Prize is addressing a very critical need for the planet, but at the same time, Ryan and I both like challenging ourselves, and particularly with thermal systems. So this is kind of the perfect storm for us to get involved. But yeah, I mean, we think going forward, there are going to be a lot of challenges to overcome, particularly with the scale up of the system and starting as a small company. But we're excited about challenging ourselves in that way.
One of the things I hope you'll see is there's a diversity of approaches that the teams are taking and backgrounds. You've had a chance to be able to meet some of these folks. Do you think the prize will offer you the opportunity to collaborate and learn different approaches to scale up that might influence how you move forward?
Definitely. Like we said, there are some very small startups, some very large established companies. We definitely will be working together, and even just talking with the other contestants over the past few days, we really do see the competition to beat is the status quo in the field as opposed to the other 7 contestants. So getting at least one of these technologies to market, to implementation at scale to really address global problems, that's the real competition as opposed to just facing each other.
I couldn't put that better myself. That's fantastic. Well, we are so proud to have you and your take a first principles approach as a part of this competition. Best of luck to Team M Squared, and thank you for being here. Congratulations to both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Ryan. That's great. Well done. That's great.
We're going to have a little bit of fun now. As you know, we do have this app that we've asked you all to log into, and we are asking a few questions from the audience. The first one is, where did you travel to from today to come to the Global Cooling Prize? So please, when you have a moment, do put in the details. On that note, we will return to someone who hasn't traveled too far from here, and I would like to invite our next finalist team to discuss their technologies. We would like to invite Team S&S Design Startup Solution Private Limited to take the stage. Delivering the presentation on behalf of the team is the person with the coolest title in the room, Disruptor of Innovation, Manjunath V. Welcome.
Right. Good afternoon, or it's good evening. We are a team of disruptive innovation. There are 3 members who have been working together. We believe in doing something which is really out of the box. Think of base of the pyramid, look at base of the pyramid and develop the products which meet those requirements. Why should why should any consumer be deprived of the comfort solution? This goes back to when we are traveling, when we see as we are looking at 10% is the air conditioning penetration, 8 to 10%, whereas most of the things that you look at here in Delhi, it's only the air coolers which they use. So that is where we got inspiration and said, okay, how do we look at it? So we are a team of 3 working on disruptive innovation with a vision of making things better, using the fundamentals, go back to the physics, go back to the basics and develop the products which meet the requirement. And we are looking at how do we disrupt the market with innovation which meets those requirements and addresses the societal challenges. So as one of these challenges that we are talking about today is cooling, similarly we are going to look at different challenges that would come forward. So what really motivated us to be part of this Global Cooling Prize? In the Global Cooling Prize, the product that we have defined, we started somewhere in 2017. This is just a group of 3 individuals who are working together, and then we said, can I develop an air conditioner which works at the power consumption of a 56-inch smart TV, and the acquisition cost of the product has to be same or probably a little higher than the air cooler. That is what really triggered our thought, and then we started looking at it, starting developing the product, looked at making a proto with the fixed speed compressor. We evaluated, yes, we were successful, but there stopped everything. We could not move forward because we did not have fund to make it bigger, scalable, all of that. That is where the Global Cooling Prize came in, and we were pretty excited, saying that, wow, this is a solution. This is something which is really great for us. Let's go ahead and develop the product. Let's design the product in detail. And then we are at this stage here now. What we are really aiming at is come out with the new design solutions, bring it up with a small manufacturing which proves that the design is proven, make it validated, and then whatever the profit that comes, flow it back to new innovations, address the new societal challenges. That is what we are really looking forward to work with. Just to give a quick overview of the technology, in this it's quite a simple one. What we are looking at is how we make it more scalable, how we make it more simple, how it can be installed very easily. As we are talking about, water is the best cooling media. So we used water for making the condenser better. So evaporative cooling is the one which offers best of the condensing temperatures, so by which the pressure on the compressor comes down. So that is where it becomes more efficient. Even with a smaller compressor, I can get 1.5 ton. Next comes is this water, whatever we have, how do we use it for cooling on the evaporator side, or that's the indoor side. So we use this water to cool it, but along with that we also use a coaxial heat exchanger for removing the stray heat. So we are not leaving even a bit of heat which goes as waste. Take that and use it for further cooling the indoor side, complemented with a refrigerant based that is a 0 GWP and 0 ODP refrigerant which is on the indoor side. That heat exchanger cools it further to meet the requirements. This is how we have been able to come out with a solution which meets the cost requirement and also the performance requirement. Thank you. Vijay?
And Vijay.
Yeah. So,
well done, Manjunath. And we're joined by Vijay Lal, one of your colleagues from S&S Design.
Thank you.
Thank you for this, and congratulations to you and your whole team. This is fabulous.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You both look like you're excited. You both have huge smiles. How does this feel?
As I said, it was like we started with something, and then we had some platform for us to really demonstrate what we can do.
Well, so you have a lot of expertise, I know, in innovation in particular, lots of different fields. What was the process that led you to this approach, this hybrid design that you've had here?
Yeah, okay. What led to us is, as I said, first of all, we were always thinking that being in the air conditioning field, we should do something which is different, not with the same conventional air conditioners. And as we are looking at the coolers or the one which is being offered, and this goes back to a small story which I can tell. When I was in my hometown for a summer, and there is no air conditioner. The reason is, it's not that I cannot afford the first acquisition cost, but the running cost is really tremendous. It really does not allow me to use it. That is where my grandparents had to say, no, we cannot, let's use the air cooler. That thought brought us saying that, yeah, what do we do further? And we discussed, myself, Suresh and Vijay discussed what we can do. Let's put a target for ourselves. How do we design this product? We started with saying that first thing is the cost of acquisition has to still continue to be as equal to the air cooler cost. Now everyone uses a television, everyone uses a mobile phone which is worth 15K. So acquiring something like this is going to be not a big challenge, but definitely using an air conditioner which consumes less power is the biggest challenge. So we said, when someone uses a TV which runs up almost 24 hours, let's look at the power consumption limiting to that. So that is how we started, and that's why today we are here.
So this obviously aligns well with what the Global Cooling Prize is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Was that fate, as it were? Were you already thinking about these same parameters, or has the prize inspired further innovation for you?
Well, it really inspired further, because what we did, as I said, as a proof of concept, we had taken only the fixed speed and cost and the efficiency. It was okay, we need to have something very efficient. When it comes to the 5 times efficient, it was really a challenge. So that is where I had to go back and say, Lal and myself and Suresh had to say, what do we do? Because this is okay, but what do we do next? So is there anything that is missing? So we found, yeah, there is some heat which is still missing. We are not able to use it. Let's use that. So that's how we could come out with a solution which is further improved and made it better.
What does that look like when you're in the lab and looking for these opportunities?
GCP as a inspiration all through the day. We have already spoken and heard too much about it, and we all understand the importance. But for us as a team, GCP as an inspiration was, we genetically don't have a business background, but of course we were crazy engineers. So when we are a crazy engineers, we of course we intend to first evolve something from a design point of view. But what after that? The quest doesn't end there. So you need scalability. So you need funds. You need to first develop a proto, then you have to go for mass production. So that's the inspiration. Of course, there is an inspiration for us to take care of the environment. Definitely, that's there for sure. But for inspiration, for us was you are into getting a design idea to be converted to next to proto and then to mass production. So that was definitely one of the inspiration for us to.
And how is that looking to you now? You've got this great concept. You've got a wonderful design, and the challenge of getting to scale now becomes a new problem to solve, as it were. No?
Yeah, definitely, it's more positive now. Now we are more confident. Now we are definitely more confident because though it's a learning platform, of course, many wonderful concepts have been shared. But for us, we are getting down to the basics. So we know that whatever we have proposed is easily manufacturable. So that's a positive we have. So far as first round of testing is concerned, as a proof of testing, we have already done it. So we are confident definitely that we can bring it into reality.
Yeah. Along with the manufacturing, we are also looking at how easily it can be installed. So it's similar to a window air conditioner. Even a carpenter can just come and show it into the window and say, yeah, your machine is ready to use. So that's what we are looking at.
All of these points, in my mind, to something that you mentioned in your remarks, the importance of designing for the bottom of the pyramid. Speak to why that is such a core value for S&S Design startup.
Base of the pyramid is the one which is really not addressed today. The technologies that we develop, we always look at the tip of the pyramid, and the technology has to help to reach to the mass. So that is where we look at base of the pyramid as the important aspect, and they should not be deprived of any new technologies that they come and the comfort that they should get.
We have spoken so much about low level of penetration, particularly in the countries like India. So therefore, in case if we have to increase the penetration, we have to focus on the base of the pyramid. So that's the reason, yes, we have to evolve a solution for the base of the pyramid. We need to increase the penetration. The cooling has to be access to the masses. If we have to have the accelerated economic growth, again we need to give the cooling, excess of cooling to all. So that's the reason we have to be talking about the base of pyramid.
This and one of the things you mentioned frugal design. To exactly this point, Vijay. Very often we've seen new developments in developing world contexts. For example, the adoption of mobile telephony in a place like Burma was within a couple of years from virtually nothing to almost full penetration, which helped drive innovation that then scaled up to the top of the pyramid in some ways. Yeah. It sounds like you see this as an opportunity to really innovate in a way that can serve everyone, by recognizing that it really is everyone that deserves some of these opportunities.
That's a potential we all should be looking forward to. Because in case just to have a good idea, it doesn't end there. You need to actually convert into reality for the base of the pyramid. That's again also important from the business point of view. Now that we have jumped into it, so accordingly, it's all the more important that we convert the idea into reality and give it to the base of the pyramid people.
I think you're speaking, the prize criteria, and Sukumar can speak to this, require all of these thoughts that you all have, which is
very interesting. Again, it's one of those hybridization of vapor compression with evaporative cooling. One question which can be posed is, your cooling capacity is rather small compared to the load, and so under extreme conditions you will be able to still manage the cooling capacity with your small system using 290.
Yes.
You have chosen R290.
Yes,
so this is one of the questions I had.
Based on what we have seen and what we have tested today at the rated condition, and also, as I said, the coaxial heat exchangers that we're using, we are able to get almost around 1.7 ton. So what we have really done is we have kept something in the pocket for us to use.
It is a competition, you're saying. You don't want to show off all of your cards.
And with a lot of integration, because you have picked on every part of the energy for the recovery and recycle. But do you think you can have a challenge on the size or making it fitting into a window or a system?
The challenge what we really seen was because it has to accommodate too many things. While we are looking at the length and the breadth the same, the depth probably goes a little higher, but still with the kind of installation that we provide, it should not be a challenge for the replacement market.
Good.
I wonder, we had a chance to talk yesterday, and your team knows each other quite well. You've worked on this a lot. How does that give you a chance to overcome challenges that you see and haven't seen, and how does that end up playing out in your day-to-day work? Is that an advantage that you guys all know each other so well?
It's actually now I see you are fighting. Already we are fighting. So, Lal, would you like to?
I don't know. I just because yesterday also we were sharing on these things. Yes, we all three of us, we have worked for the same organization for a long span of time. So, so there is a kind of bonding for sure. But why that bonding has come again is because of varied roles which we have had. Because Manju has headed the design department in that company, and I was taking care of the development procurement. He was my internal customer, so as any customer cannot be shouted at, so therefore I had no liberty to do. But you know, all the development meetings would be there, and we used to call it NPD, it's a new product development, and any of the meeting he would come with his list of requirements, and I would actually call it a wish list. 30 days work to be done in 7 days. 10 rupees part to be procured at 2 rupees, and when because being an internal customer, I would just be pissed off, but cannot do anything.
So and all weird requirements going to him.
All weird requirements.
You give him more weird requirements, he will develop it. He does it. So that's
so he would look at me, and still he understands that I am so pissed off. He'd say, "नहीं लाल ये तो करना पड़ेगा." Lal, you will have to still do it.
Well, I am so glad that you're bringing this energy and your focus on helping support everyone on this planet with your efforts in the Global Cooling Prize. Congratulations again.
Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great work.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dr. Devota, and thank you to Team S&S Design Startup Solution Private Limited, and many, many congratulations. Next up, we have, it is my pleasure to invite Team Transaera to share about their technology. We already have Soreen Grama, CEO and co-founder of Transaera, with us, who will be delivering the presentation on the technology. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Is this the cue? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Soreen Grama, and I'm CEO of Transaera. Michael Collins, the famed Apollo 11 astronaut, when asked to describe the Earth as seen from the moon, said this: "I would ignore both its size and its color, and I would search for a more elemental quality, that of fragility. The Earth appears fragile above all else." This was 50 years ago. Michael Collins understood then what we're all aware of today. The race to the moon led to a giant leap in technology. Reaching the moon was an engineering challenge, not a scientific one. The basic technologies we needed to get to the moon were there, but they needed to be adapted and improved. The competition provided the impetus and the focus needed to sustain that effort. Today, we're engaged in a new competition. Like the race to the moon, the Global Cooling Prize is an engineering challenge designed to create a leap in cooling technologies. Our team was inspired by it because it's a good problem to solve. We have the technical experience and the first-hand knowledge of the problem. We've been working on this for over 12 years, many of those years right here in India. When I lived in Delhi, I gave an air conditioner to one of our staff members, a single mom who wanted to provide a better living situation for her daughter. I was so happy that I could help her. A few weeks later, I asked her, how's it going? How do you like it? And she looked at me sheepishly and said, we're not using it. It's too expensive to run it. Cooling was a luxury she couldn't afford. But cooling is a necessity now. It should not be a luxury. We are a team of experienced entrepreneurs, engineers, and scientists from MIT who thrive on solving difficult problems and working on things that matter. Democratizing cooling is something that matters. Okay, so how do we plan to do this? Here's our basic concept. Humid air, and you probably heard this all day today, humid air is difficult to cool because when you cool the air, you also have to cool the water vapor that's in the air, and that's inefficient. If we can remove that water vapor before we cool the air, we can improve the whole process. That sounds pretty simple, right? Why has no one done this before? Because we haven't had cost-effective means to do it. But now, we have new science that we can bring to bear. Our team has developed a new material that can absorb more water than any other material out there. A material that is molecularly tuned to absorb water and release it effectively so we can remove the moisture from the inside space and move it outside. More importantly, it can remove that moisture using energy that is otherwise wasted. Our solution is practical and can be commercialized in the near term with our partners, Haier in China, who's right here in the room with us, Emerson in India, and Promethean Power, the previous company that I started. It's basically a hybrid air conditioner based on today's mini-split systems with an add-on device which we call a moisture storage battery. The device captures, stores, and releases moisture using only the heat generated by the air conditioner itself. I'll end with another quote from Michael Collins. The beauty of the planet from 100,000 miles should be a goal for all of us to help in our struggle to make it as it appears to be. This is exactly our goal at Transaera. If you're inspired by it, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sureen. We would now like to invite on stage Dr. Paul Bungie and Mr. Bill Sisson. Bill is the Executive Director of WBCSD North America and is also one of the Technical Review Committee members of the Global Cooling Prize. Joining for the Q&A is Matthew Dorson, Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of Transaera. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Radhika. Matt, Sureen, congratulations on being here. This is fantastic. I also love the branding. That's
yeah, we have a couple more out there somewhere.
Here, oh, you have that on. Okay. You both have different experiences with cooling, and we had a chance yesterday to discuss some of your background. And you have a third co-founder. I'd love you to share the story of how the three of you came together and how that turned into Transaera.
Well, I'll start with that because so I grew up in Romania, and someone introduced me at MIT to a fellow Romanian professor, and I found out that we grew up like 10 miles from each other, so we had that connection, that instant connection. But this fellow Mircea developed this material that we're using in our air conditioner, and so that was the impetus. It was the initial start, and then Matt and I have been working together for almost 9 years now. In a previous startup, which I can mention a few things. So I pulled Matt into it. It's like, come on, let's do this. This is something that we can do, refrigeration, air conditioning, and so on. So we all had connections with each other, and it felt very comfortable.
And you worked in this previous startup in cooling, right, in cold chain. How does that relate to what you're doing now?
Yeah, our experience in India in deploying the systems that Promethean Power built, it's a milk chilling system that's all over rural India. And so we had a lot of experience moving around the country and seeing how these systems could really make a difference out in the village level and change lives with cold technology. And so it was a real natural fit when the Global Cooling Challenge came along for us to say, hey, this is a way to move from the product supply cooling right into room cooling. So it was really a good match for what we were thinking to do.
And I know, Matt, that even before working on chilling milk in India, you had some experiences chilling milk growing up in the United States.
I did. I grew up on a dairy farm in the state of Ohio, milking cows as a kid, and I was telling a story the other day. When I was probably 8 years old, the energy crisis kind of swept through. This was in the late 70s, and at our household, my parents suddenly found out that the electric company was going to put us on a demand meter, which meant if we used above a certain level of power in the house, we would get triple the bill for our electricity for that month, and you only had to go over it for 15 minutes. And so my dad, who was sort of a tinkerer like me, mounted a power meter on the kitchen cabinet with a big needle on it, and he drew a really big red line right on that power meter. And he told me, when I'm in the barn milking the cows and using the cooler, and your mom's in the house cooking the dinner in the electric stove or doing the laundry, if that needle gets anywhere close to that limit, you go tell mom to turn off dinner and shut everything off. I need to save power. So I've been thinking about energy efficiency since I was a pretty small guy.
He was an energy efficient.
This sounds very much like the woman that you tried to help with a too expensive air conditioner.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all over the world.
You both have been entrepreneurs before and are doing this again. I also note that sorry, you lost your voice a little bit ago, and then yesterday evening, you poor Matt had to go to the hospital for a severe sprain. This strikes me as a metaphor for being an entrepreneur.
There are slips and falls as you get through life. I mentioned at the coffee break that, you know, if business is a little bit about putting on the right song and dance, I think today maybe I should have been singing and he should have been dancing.
It's usually the other way around.
It's usually the other way around.
Wait, you have such a smile on your faces, though. You have been through these trials and tribulations before. You're ready to do it again.
We went to the emergency room to get an X-ray, and it was all right. Let's just do it. You know, I've been there before. I live here in Delhi, so we called our friends and said, you know, where can we go? And we did. We were
nothing
back
like
in an hour,
a set of X-rays to make a great souvenir to take home to show my wife.
So is this why you're confident? You've been through these kinds of things, be it in your health or in previous companies, that you're willing to take on a very difficult challenge like this one.
Yeah, I think we've been through this rodeo before with the previous startup, but I'm also excited about the partnership that we're able to get here. I mean, working with Haier in China, one of the largest air conditioning manufacturers. I reached out to Emerson in India. We've been working with Emerson in my previous startup. And then, of course, my Promethean Power, the previous startup, providing logistics support here in India. So I feel like we have a good team. Matt and I know each other. We understand each other inherently. You know, he talks about one thing, and we instantly understand what he's trying to say, and so on. So, yeah.
Explain more about these partners and the partnership. Is that critical for developing a real solution you can deploy, commercialize, sell? Is it more about being competitive with the criteria for the Global Cooling Prize?
No, I think it's critical for even beyond the Global Cooling Prize. I mean, it's nice to have the Global Cooling Prize here as a focus to keep us motivated and to create this effort, to sustain this effort. But really, we're looking way beyond that. I mean, this is a company that's going to hopefully survive next 5-10 years. So we need those partnerships.
And I know, Bill, you've been in this field for a long time. You've seen companies at this early stage like this. Tell us a little bit about what impressed you with Transaera.
Yeah, I think, from our perspective and from the TRC, the real interesting thing about my experience here today is technology is one thing. We went through all of the formulations, all of the things that you had put together, but also all the other finalists. And what we didn't do was get a chance to meet the personalities of the teams. And I think for me, in my experience in R&D and here in this experience with the Global Cooling Prize, it's really wonderful to see the faces and the body language and the passion of not just you guys, but the whole teams. But I did want to come back and actually get into a TRC thing for a second. One of the more intriguing parts of your submission had to do with this moisture storage battery. And that has actually kind of an interesting history. But I don't want to give it away because I can't give it away. But perhaps you could say a few more things.
Well, I'll let Matt say it because that was his idea.
Sure. Yeah, that's really one of the core things that I think we're bringing to this. We did a lot of looking at the energy profiles and the moisture profiles provided by the team, and we realized that just like the power grid with its peaks that people have been showing and how it has really big late afternoon peaks, the moisture loads, even in residential spaces, are very peaky. You get a large moisture load in the morning, which is probably related to bathing and cooking. You get another one in the afternoon. And so that got us to thinking that if we could put together a system that could mitigate that peak in the moisture portion of the load, we wouldn't need to put in equipment that's as large to cope with the total cooling. A traditional air conditioner has to handle that moisture and that cooling, that sensible cooling load, basically at the same time, and it has to, that sets its peak size. By making a moisture storage battery, we're able to store that moisture at high peak times and then use the waste energy from the compression, the vapor compression cycle to move that moisture out of the space later. So it's like a hybrid system. We can really leverage that waste heat to do the moisture movement and trim the peaks off the moisture.
And I remember when Matt came up with this idea, I was all over it. I was like, that sounds great. I mean, we've been working on energy storage previously. You know, the Promethean Power, the other company, we made thermal energy storage systems, mitigating, in this case, power fluctuations, power dropouts in rural areas. So it was an energy storage device that solved the problem. And we looked at this here, you know, kind of like having the same experience. We looked at it as like, this is a storage problem. So let's work it out that way. So
I also just love the concept of a moisture storage battery. It's rethinking just the very nature of what it is that you do with elements of cooling, which is...
And it helps. There are so many people thinking about batteries for grid storage and for, you know, electric vehicles. I think it helps people to have a simple way to think about the core piece of technology and not have it be such an abstract sort of scientific concept. A battery that stores something and deals with it later is something we all understand.
So so you have this core idea, and when you see the criteria that the TRC has to evaluate, what was your first thought?
We looked at it and realized it was a very challenging set of goals that they set. Some of our initial things, I think we can echo some of the other finalists where we said, what? That's crazy. But when we really sharpened our pencils and sat down and looked at the problem and realized that by bringing in and really combining technologies, I mean, if you look at our overall solution, we're combining many of the technologies that are here, vapor compression cycles, evaporative cooling, but that moisture storage battery we think brings that special piece that really helps get ours over the edge to make this work.
It was a lot of, I remember arguments going back and forth. Like Matt was like, no, this is really difficult technically. But Matt, this really matters. This is important. You know, we can, and so we got a whole team together, and yeah, it was actually exhilarating to work on the application process. Our teammates were, you know, this was a great thing to work on, and they were really excited. So
you both are clearly inspired by the opportunity to innovate, but you also said this really matters.
Yeah, no, this is like a defining challenges of our time. So yeah.
Well, that's having folks like you and all of the teams as a part of this to drive innovation and do it because it matters is why we're so proud to have named all of you finalists. So congratulations again. Thank you for all of your hard work and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Way to go. Well done, Matt.
Thank you so much for that. So that brings us now to the final presentation. It's been a very long day. I'm on the last page of my script, but I do hope that we can hold your attention because the last finalist also has an amazing technology that he would like to speak about. I would like to invite Barocal Limited, a new spin-out of University of Cambridge lab, to share a keynote on their technology. Delivering the presentation on behalf of the team is Professor Xavier Moya, Royal Society University Research Fellow. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So my name is Javier Moya. I'm here on behalf of Barocal Limited, which is a recent startup company that is based on research that I'm doing at the Department of Material Science at the University of Cambridge. And with Barocal, we as a team are trying to develop a new cooling technology which is called barocaloric cooling. And the key component of this technology is that we are trying to use a solid refrigerant and replace the harmful refrigerants that we use nowadays in a standard vapor compression, cooling and air conditioning systems. So in many ways, we are trying to pioneer innovative zero carbon emission refrigeration. So how does this technology work? In a nutshell, these materials use materials that are called barocaloric materials, and these are materials that can show thermal changes when you apply and remove pressure to them. So in a typical cooling cycle, what you will do is you will take a material, which you can see in in the top right corner of the slide. You will compress it, the material normally will get hot, and then you will remove the pressure, and then the material will get cold. So following these steps, you can construct your cooling cycle, and then you can move heat from the load that you want to refrigerate to the sink outside the building apartment. Any material is barocaloric. I mean, if you compress any solid, it's going to change temperature a little bit, but in order to have large thermal effects that you can use for cooling, you need to be able to drive phase transitions in the material using pressure. So in many ways, our technology is analogous to vapor compression, but in vapor compression, you drive transitions between a gas and a liquid phase using pressure, using highly volatile gases, whereas we actually drive phase transitions using pressure between two different types of solid phases. We recently developed some very interesting materials, which are organic barocaloric materials that need relatively low pressures and can have very large thermal effects. And on the graph on the bottom right, you can see that for the first time, this family of organic materials can deliver thermal performances that are comparable to the thermal performance that you have in fluid refrigerants. So as an example, I have R134A hydrofluorocarbon refrigerant there, and you can see that for the first time, the red data, which is a typical example of our materials, which is a plastic crystal called MPG, can perform in a comparable way to the fluid refrigerants. So we are very excited about now moving this technology further and exploiting these materials into real systems. The excitement also comes from the fact that you can see from this graph that if you compare these organic materials with any other type of caloric material, which is shown here in green, we have achieved order of magnitude improvement in performance. So our core innovation promises a disruptive technology that exploits large barocaloric effects in materials that are organic and are inexpensive. Therefore, we are proposing to introduce solid refrigerants with zero global warming potential. These are refrigerant or solid materials that are easy to scale up in terms of production, and they also allow us to implement thermodynamic cycles for cooling that are highly energy efficient in order to decrease the amount of energy that we use in the cooling system. As a concept, the system that we are proposing to build is made of two main components, which you can also see in the graph in the slide. One component is a pressurized chamber where we can apply and remove pressure to the barocaloric refrigerant, and then we have a secondary circuit for heat exchange, which uses an inert fluid such as water. So as I said, we are a very new and young startup. We are developing the technology, but we are also open for partnership with air conditioning companies and other cooling companies. So if you're interested, please come to see me or just drop me an email there. And just let me finish saying that we are really thrilled about being one of the finalists. We appreciate very much the trust that the organizers and the review committee are placing on us. This is both very stimulating and a big challenge for us, but we love a challenge, so let's see what we can do in the next few months. Thank you very much.
Javier, congratulations to you, and I love that Barocal is a new spin-out. This is a brand new thing that you have created, yeah?
Just a few months old at the moment.
It's a few months old.
Yeah, it's very recent. We've been working on the core technology for quite a few years. I actually started to become interested in solid refrigerants when I was doing my PhD 15 years ago. So it's something that has been in the making for a long time, but it's only now that we have really very promising materials at the core of the technology that we can think about developing systems and cooling prototypes.
And how, if you have been working on this for many years, how did the sort of focus on cooling, using these materials to provide cooling, how did that come about? And in particular, thinking about producing an air conditioning unit or a space cooling unit that you could use?
So I think it is related to one of the previous presentations. I mean, as we know, many technologies that we use nowadays have changed dramatically over the last 50 years, especially with the introduction of semiconductors and new electronics. But for vapor or for cooling, we are still using a very old technology, which is pretty much the same as it was 150 years ago. So I think it's just asking for the next step that can help reducing the environmental impact and at the same time improving the energy efficiency. So this is why I've been interested in cooling for a long time, and I believe these solid refrigerants can bring something new to the industry, and hopefully we can make some interesting prototypes out of them.
I think not only do you have a solid cooling substrate, but zero global warming potential, and we've seen a lot of teams with extremely low GWP technologies. Was that something that you all expected when going into this?
Oh, Ian and I were so thrilled when we finally had a solid state submission that we could get excited about. I mean, there were a handful, I think, right, Ian, there were a handful that showed up, but clearly Barocal and the barocaloric approach that they had designed, which was really in that core design that was shown, was very intriguing. So we were really excited, but we know we're rooting for you, my friend Javier. We're rooting for you. Solid state is something we're all really excited about. And so tell us, I mean, from my perspective, since I get to meet you in person, you've already kind of probed at this a little bit, but kind of what more can you tell us about barocaloric that would make maybe other folks in the room understand a little bit more about what you've done in that core design?
So I mean, maybe we can do a small practical demonstration if you want.
Yeah, please.
So,
does everyone understand barocaloric?
This is a setup.
There's some nodding.
So I'm going to show you the cheapest caloric material that you can find, and then we can do an experiment together. So these are just normal balloons. So I'm not going to do the experiment because I need to hold the microphone, but you can do it for me. So this is just a normal balloon made of natural rubber, and this is an example of a caloric material that can change temperature when you apply and remove force to them. So if you use your lips, the top lip, which is the most sensitive thermometer in your body, put the balloon in contact and then stretch it very quickly. What do you feel?
It's warm.
It's warm, right? So this is half of the cycle. Now you need to wait, remove the force.
And it's cold.
And it's cold. So this is an example of how you can actually...
I look ridiculous, don't I?
It really works.
Has anyone tried this?
He's
a lot of you have.
He's got some spare balloons.
So I have plenty of balloons in my chair, so we can do it all together later. So this is just an example of how you can drive a transition in the material. In this case, it goes from amorphous to crystalline, so you are changing the internal structure of the material, and this allows you to exchange heat with the environment.
This seems like it also is an old property or an old technology, no? What took so long to put it into this type of...
Right, so it's actually, this is quite an interesting story. A few years ago, I was writing a review paper on caloric materials as a whole, and then I started digging older and older references, and I came up by serendipity a little bit on a paper that is, it was published in 1803, so more than 200 years ago. And this was done by a natural philosopher called John Gove, who was from the UK. He was the teacher of Dalton, the chemist, who I'm sure you know. And he was actually blind, so he couldn't do many experiments. And this story actually is connected to India, so this is the best place to be. So at that time, John Gove got a piece of a new material at that time, which was natural rubber. And this was coming from India, so it used to be called Indian rubber at that time. And then he was experimenting with the sample with his hands, and then he had the idea of basically doing this experiment. So he put the piece of sample of natural rubber in contact with his lips, and he just wrote down in a paragraph, by the way, the sample gets hot and cold when you stretch it and release it. And then this was actually picked up later on by Lord Kelvin and Joule. And then this is how the whole field of caloric materials started.
This is still 100 years later before putting it into a device such as you're proposing.
So I think this is because there was not really so much demand from the market, because vapor compression works very well and it's cheap. So I don't think there was the drive behind. And it's also partly because the thermal performance of caloric materials have been traditionally quite small. So if you remember the graph that I showed you, this material is in the green region, so it's very far away from vapor compression, and therefore it's very difficult to make an application out of them. This is why we're excited about our new materials, because with this new family of organic materials that are inexpensive and show massive thermal performance, we are hoping to make a new cooling technology out of them.
This is very often the case where new innovative approaches are waiting for the last pieces of the puzzle to come and be added, a new material, for example. I imagine you have a few more pieces that you're looking to fill in as you progress over the next few months. What's high on your list?
So, I mean, as I said, this opportunity is very stimulating and also very challenging. We have the materials. We've done a lot of testing and computer modeling of systems, but now actually we need to go from the small scale lab version of things to a proper prototype, and this is going to be a challenge. So the team at Barocal are very excited and full on to deliver, and we are going to spend the next few months working very hard.
Why is it that you all wanted this solid state approach so badly?
Well, I mean, a solid state in the way that this approach could come forward is a true disruptor. I mean, we've seen some very good technologies today, and I don't want to debate which one is the better or not, but I think having a game changer like this approach in the mix was certainly important to us. But if you don't mind, you put out, and I hope those in the room actually heard his call, that he put out a call to bring partners together to be part of his initiative. And I guess if I was to pose a question to you, because I'm meeting you essentially for the first time, what's your dream team to help you get over the hurdle?
So the dream team will be an industrial partner that can help us moving, or let's say utilizing the core part of the cooling technology, which is the barocaloric material and the system to make it hot and cold, and help us implementing it in a air conditioning system that has already all the control mechanisms and all the system design already built in. So hopefully we can do this transition from basic research at the lab to innovation and a real product.
So you need system integrators.
Yes.
There might be a few of those in the room. This is one of the great things about a prize like this. We've heard from a number of people is it's really about the collaborations that can be built and the opportunities. You've had a chance to see 7 other finalists with amazing approaches and technologies. What are you most excited about for the next phase of the Global Cooling Prize?
So I think we're very excited. I just get on with it, start really putting into practice all the ideas that we have and all the things that we've been simulating in the computer, and then just get it tested and see how it goes. And then also one of the nice things of the prize is that there is a possibility of interacting with industrial partners, and that's also something that we are very keen in exploring, not only for air conditioning but also in the wider cooling application sector.
Not only are you doing something new and challenging technologically, you're going from a lab into an entrepreneurial environment. You're excited about those industrial partners. Have you ever been an entrepreneur before?
No, first time.
Any nerves?
But somehow I managed to buy a house, have a baby, and become an entrepreneur all in the same sort of period of time. So I think now that I'm getting again proper sleep, I think I can have the energy to
never
do
sleep.
As they say, fortune favors the bold. So taking on all of those challenges at once is probably the perfect spirit of all of these amazing finalist teams. And we're really, really pleased, Javier, that you are a part of this, and good luck. Congratulations on making it this far. We can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well done. Balloons. I get to keep the balloon. Now I can show it to my kids.
Thank you, Javier and Team Barocal. May we invite on stage now Professor Rajan Rawal and Dr. Satish Kumar to deliver a presentation on next steps and extend a vote of thanks to everyone in the audience.
Namaskar. It's a great pleasure to be here and be part of the exciting day. I'll be talking about what are the next steps, what we'll be doing in next 1 year, and then probably Satish will hand over the vote of thanks. So as Ian, since last 2 or 3 days, I'm hearing that he repeatedly mentioned this tell me to show me kind of stage. And that's where we are going to spend next 1 year. We will be characterizing or we'll be evaluating these technologies in a 2 separate environments. One we call it a lab environment, and one would call it a field environment. The very detailed protocol is been shared with the participants. We had a discussion yesterday with each of them individually. We discussed how are we going to do that. So what is going to happen is about from now to April 15th, each participants would be spending time in developing these two prototypes. They will be shipping them to Ahmedabad and in Delhi. And we'll be conducting lab tests in Ahmedabad. Lab test would be sort of typical 10 days, selected 10 days, which represents the all climatic zones and all climate variations which we find in India. And under these conditions, we will be testing the prototypes. The lab is capable of generating various kind of indoor conditions and indoor loads, as well as the outdoor conditions and outdoor loads. And under these conditions, we'll be trying to understand what's a performance of these technologies to deliver 27 degree at 60% RH, and how much energy does it use. Simultaneously, in between May and July, we will be installing another set of prototypes in Delhi. We'll be hiring apartment blocks. These would be unoccupied apartment blocks, which will sort of represent typical residential urban environment. And each of these technologies would be installed in 5 or 10 apartment blocks simultaneously, along with the two baseline machines or two baseline case which we have. And then we will be monitoring their performance under these conditions. The time steps which we have sort of decided is about every 15 minutes, indoor environmental conditions and almost all energy parameters would be monitored, and later on we'll compile this and provide a feedback for technical review committee to consider the outcome of that. Simultaneously, what we will be doing is also we'll be working with each of these participants when they ship their prototype. They will be the one who will make sure that they are installed properly. They will commission it. Once they are satisfied with the installation, we will sort of start evaluating them. We will be sharing data, not really online, but probably not in a real time, but probably on a 24-hour basis, how their technologies are performing and how things are happening. They also will have a chance, if at all any kind of malfunction happens or any kind of breakdown happens during the test, they will have the chance and come to repair and start the tests again. So that's what intense plan we have in next 1 year. Probably we should be over by next August with all testing and other thing, and then technical review committee will start evaluating based on the feedback which we'll be providing. So that's a sort of plan we have, and in a lighter tone, I always tell people that yes, we will be evaluating these technologies, we will be testing these technologies, but at the same time, we will be learning a lot, and probably we also is going to get tested simultaneously. Satish.
Good evening, everybody. And I have the honor of closing the session and issue a vote of thanks. So what a day it has been. I think we all came in looking for what's in store for us in terms of what kind of technologies, what kind of partnerships, and what kind of innovations are in store for us. And we started the day with Ian saying that we have to move from tell me to show me. And I just want to highlight that the best part was, I think, all these 8 teams coming, giving keynote presentations, and Paul and one of the technical review committee members asking them some questions and trying to get into the heads of the team leaders and other people. And what struck me was, I think, the kind of partnerships that has been built to respond to this disruptive call under the Global Cooling Prize. And I think that has precisely been the expectation, that it would be tough for just one group of people to come out with the innovations that are expected. So we have seen people from academia, people from research, pure research, people who have experience working in different segments. We heard that people have worked in milk chillers, people who are material scientists, people who have worked all their life in thermodynamic space, and also I think the businesses coming together. So that was one of the recurring themes that we saw in the presentations and in the Q&A sessions. The second theme that was very, very interesting was that there were some usual strategies that we were expecting. So the hybrid technology that many of the teams have come up with, maybe with some variations, but together with vapor compression, together with evaporative cooling technologies, people are really trying to push the envelope. So, and also I think with multi-split technologies. The third thing that was very interesting as well was where no refrigerant is being used, no compressor is being used, and some of the solid state innovation that has been on display. So we are very excited that as we move into the second phase of this project, where all the shortlisted teams are going to be developing the prototypes, and then they will be shipping the units for testing as per the protocol that Rajan laid out. So I would like to start by thanking, first of all the participants. I think irrespective of what has been the outcome, but I think it's the number of participants, the number of, I think, intent to apply that has really made Global Cooling Prize a success. And we really wish that the spark of innovation that they have showed, they continue to actually take it and pursue it further. Also, my heartiest congratulations to the shortlisted companies and the organizations who have a big task on hand. And I wish all of them luck, and hope that we will see some really innovative solutions which is going to really transform the way we look at air conditioning in future. My huge gratitude to the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Earth Sciences, Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, for meeting with the awardees, for giving the awardees and delivering the inaugural address. Dr. Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Dr. Sanjay Bajpai, who was indisposed today, but who has been a huge supporter and provided constant encouragement to the entire GCP team. Dr. Reddy from DST, Ms. Geeta Menon from Joint Secretary from Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Mr. Abhay Bakre, Director General from Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Mr. John Room, Head South Asia, World Bank, and your participation and commitment to the award has been phenomenal. And last but not the least, I think my special thanks to the prize initiators, Ian Campbell and the entire team from Rocky Mountain Institute for putting so much work, I think, and making this day possible. I know that how much effort has gone into, I think, what you have seen today. To the Department of Science and Technology, the Mission Innovation Team, the Operating Council of RMI, AEEE, the team AEEE. I think a lot of people have been here, so I would like to acknowledge all the efforts I think that the team AEEE has put in. Dr. Rajan Raval, the CEPT University team, Conservation X Labs, and you saw Paul and Chuck who has been in the audience, and also the Technical Review Committee. I think it was there, I think, intense deliberations which actually led to the shortlisting of these 8 people. So thank you very much again to all of you for coming to the Global Cooling Prize. I would encourage you to take the message from the Global Cooling Prize team back to your countries, back to the continent, because we really all need to work together to solve one of the defining challenges of the 21st century. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we would like to formally close out the Global Cooling Prize Finalist Award ceremony today. It has been our privilege that you all joined us, and we hope that you will follow us on our journey in the next phase of the prize. thank you for being part of this grand celebration. We hope to see you back in a year when we will award the grand winner of the Global Cooling Prize, and our very best wishes to all the finalists. Many thanks to everyone who has attended from the entire Global Cooling Prize Coalition. Thank you. May I please request all the finalists to stay back for a photo opportunity?
Yes. And also there's a special request that's come in from the Minister's office. He has shared several posts about today's event, so he's requesting that the finalists please follow his Twitter handle and share those widely. So please do that. And we do have a few people we do want to thank who have not been thanked, so please bring that up. We would like to, of course, thank Paul for your contribution today. We'd like to invite Rajanji back to the stage, please. We have a little trophy for you as well. We'd like to invite Dr. Kumar back from AEEE. There you are. And Jamie Mandel, can we thank you as well? And do we have Dr. Reddy in the room as well? Because no? So can someone take that for him on his behalf? Yes. Thank you, Jamie. All right. Show is over. Thank you so much. But we do request, of course, all the finalists. We would like to take a group photo, organizers and finalists. So if we can just find a spot on the stage, we'll make it as quick as possible. Thank you. It's not going off. Sit down. Where's our photographer? Photographer's there. I need everyone from Rocky Mountain Institute, everybody from AEEE, everybody from Conservation X Labs, and everyone from CEPT University, and all 8 finalist teams, please. Do we have anyone from Department in Science and Technology? Do we have anyone from Mission Innovation?